Chapter 514. Little girl, your willpower isn't bad. I wonder if you can withstand my coercion. The old man smiled faintly. Then, the aura from his body expanded and filled the entire room. Under such a powerful coercion, the middle-aged man and the other disciples of the Tian family could no longer hold on and fell to the ground. Only Zhonglinger was still struggling to hold on. She used all her strength to support herself on the ground and bit her lips. Instantly, the smell of blood spread from her mouth and was swallowed by her. The old man's eyes gradually changed. Then, he shook his head regretfully. What a pity. You're a good seedling. If you had obtained that treasure and returned to the Tian family, perhaps your achievements would have been extraordinary by now. From the old man's point of view, Zhonglinger had such power because she had obtained some sort of treasure. She had no idea that her achievements were inseparable from Yun Luofeng. Furthermore, she had arrogantly believed that if Zhonglinger had not followed Yun Luofeng, her achievements would have been even greater. Bang! Zhonglinger's body finally could no longer hold on, and she fell heavily to the ground. From the beginning to the end, her knees never touched the ground. Even in the end, she chose to let her entire body fall to the ground. Take her away. The old man waved his hand with an expressionless face. Also, you must obtain the treasure in her hands. With that treasure, even without Tianya, the Tian family can still walk on the path of prosperity. Tianya, aren't you very arrogant? If that's the case, then I will surpass you. Let's see how arrogant you can be when you face the Tian family in the future. Celestial Mountain. On a rugged and uneven mountain path, a young girl dressed in a snow-white dress slowly walked across the mountain path. Her feet stepped on the fallen leaves, making a rustling sound. Behind the young girl were two attendants, one male and one female. Both of them held long swords in their hands as they followed closely behind. Bang! Suddenly, the sound of a fierce battle could be heard from the road ahead. However, even after hearing the sound, the young girl remained unmoved. A lazy smile hung on her beautiful face. Master, it seems like someone is fighting. Qingyan heard the commotion in front of her and raised her head to look at the young girl before her. Ignore them. Let's continue. Bang! Just as he finished speaking, a black figure fell from the sky and landed heavily in front of Yun Luofeng. The man in black's face was covered with a piece of black cloth, and his chest was dyed red with blood. His hands were tightly covering his injured chest, and he kept coughing out blood. Save me. The man in black looked at Yun Luofeng beside him, and his hoarse voice sounded intermittently. At this moment, a few men in robes descended from the sky. They looked coldly at Yun Luofeng, who was passing by. Little girl, I advise you not to meddle in other people's business. Otherwise, you won't even know how you died. Facing this person's warning, Yun Luofeng's lips twitched. I'm just passing by. You guys can continue. Hearing Yun Luofeng's voice, the black-clothed man's eyes were filled with despair. However, his gaze quickly became resolute, as if he was ready to face death with equanimity. Brat! The man in robes burst into laughter. He then stepped forward and kicked the man in black fiercely. He then smiled maliciously and said, I never thought that you'd have such guts. You even dared to barge into the Tian family home. You should feel lucky that you've not disturbed the master of the Tian family. Otherwise, you would know what it means to live a life worse than death. The black-clothed man laughed icily. As long as I'm still alive, I will kill everyone in the Tian family and avenge my master. Chapter 515. Ha ha! Kill everyone in our Tian family? The man in robe seemed to have heard a funny joke and couldn't help but laugh out loud. The people behind him also laughed out loud. The way they looked at the man in black became more and more disdainful. After a long time, the man in robe finally stopped laughing and coldly said, With just you, I would like to see what ability you have to kill everyone in our Tian family. The man in black's voice was cold. His eyes were filled with murderous intent. If I didn't fall into your trap, I would have wiped out your Tian family long ago. No matter why you failed, a loss is a loss. In order to prevent you from living, I will send you to heaven now. Swish! The man in robe pulled out the long sword in his hand and pointed it at the man in black. Just as he was about to deal with this man in black, a hand suddenly reached out from the side and held the hilt of the sword tightly. The man in black was stunned and looked at the beautiful girl who was holding the long sword tightly. His eyes were filled with doubt. This girl obviously didn't want to meddle in other people's business. Why did she save him now? Yin Luofeng didn't know what the man in black was thinking. Her black eyes gradually fell on the man in robe. You're for the Tian family? That's right. The man in robe frowned and coldly said, since you know I'm from the Tian family, why aren't you letting go? Sorry. Yin Luofeng's lips slowly raised, forming an evil arc. The one I'm looking for is your Tian family. Boom. Yin Luofeng's fist suddenly shot out. With a punch, the man in robe's body flew out. Not sure if it was a coincidence or intentional. Under Yin Luofeng's punch, the man's head hit the hard mountain rock. Suddenly, blood flowed out, overflowing the mountain stream. The others were scared silly. Only after a long time did they react. Trembling, they pointed at Yin Luofeng and said in horror, You actually dare to attack our Tian family's disciple? You're not afraid of death? I've said before, the one I'm looking for is the Tian family. Yin Luofeng glanced at him. Immediately go back and tell your Tian family that I, Yin Luofeng, am here to find them. Will they choose to obediently hand over the person, or let me wipe out the Tian family? Yin Luofeng? Hearing these 3 words, the disciples of the Tian family were shocked. None of them went to collect the corpse of the long-robed man. Instead, they hurriedly ran up the mountain. Qing Yin, Yiling, let's continue. From beginning to end, Yin Luofeng did not even look at the man in black. She continued to walk forward. Wait. The man in black climbed up from the ground and knelt on one knee. Miss, please accept me. Let me destroy the Tian family with you. As long as you agree to this condition of mine, I am willing to serve you for 3 years. Yin Luofeng's footsteps paused slightly. Without turning his head, he said, A few disciples of the Tian family have forced you to this degree. What kind of strength do you have to be loyal to me? Hearing this, the black-clothed man's face flashed with shame. He coughed twice and said this, I didn't expect the Tian family to have so many traps. I was seriously injured because I was hit by those traps. Otherwise, those people wouldn't be my opponents. The Tian family is my enemy, but I agree with what he said earlier. A failure is a failure, no matter what the reason is. Chapter 516. A failure is a failure, no matter what the reason is. The man in black's heart trembled as he carefully pondered over Yin Luofeng's words. After a while, he suddenly had a feeling of clarity. Lifting his head, he stared deeply at the girl with her back facing him. Thank you for your guidance. I understand now. In the future, I will not fall into the enemy's trap. The man in black's eyes were filled with determination. However, I still ask you to accept me. For this, I can give up my life for you. Yin Luofeng finally turned his head and gently raised his eyebrows. You have a deep grudge against the Tian family? It's more than a deep grudge. The man in black's eyes suddenly became cold. I can't wait to drink their blood, eat their flesh, and dismember their bodies into 1,000 pieces. Miss, as long as you are willing to bring me to the Tian family, my life will belong to you from now on. Yin Luofeng gently rubbed his chin. If you want me to bring you to the Tian family, give me a reason that can convince me. Also, what did the Tian family do to you to make you so angry? That group of bastards, they bully my master. The man in black clenched his fists. Unfortunately, master can't come to this place. Then I will come in her place. Yin Luofeng stared at the man in black and became silent. Master, did you feel it too? Within his soul, little Mo's voice echoed. This man's aura is very weak. However, his strength isn't bad. Plus, I can feel that he doesn't have any treasure that can hide his aura. Under normal circumstances, if you follow someone whose strength is lower than yours, you can successfully hide your aura. However, if it's an expert, no matter how you hide, you will be discovered. However, this man in black was different. He was like a natural assassin, able to hide his aura in front of anyone. Even if it's someone stronger than him, he could successfully assassinate them. Master, If I'm not wrong, this man's talent is very special. Right now, it's still daytime. If it's nighttime, perhaps you won't even be able to feel a trace of his aura. Unfortunately, this time, he had accidentally triggered the mechanism of the Tian family and exposed himself. Otherwise, the powerhouses of the Tian family would very likely have died under his assassination. Your name? Yin Luofeng's lips curled up as he asked. The young girl's words delighted the man in black. He removed the black veil from his face, revealing an incomparably handsome face. Long Fei greets master. In order to avenge his master, he was ready to risk everything. As long as he could personally kill those bastards of the Tian family, not to mention selling himself for 3 years, he was even willing to do it for 10 years. Qing Yin bandages wounds. We'll continue our journey after he recovers. Yes, Mississippi. In a luxurious room, an old man was resting with his eyes closed. Suddenly, a panicked voice was heard hurriedly. Patriarch, something bad has happened. Something big has happened. Third Elder's lineage's disciple Tian Yu was killed by Yun Luofeng. What? The old man suddenly opened his eyes. With a bang, he slammed his palm on the wall beside him. Immediately, the entire wall collapsed. That woman actually dared to kill my Tian family's people. Did she really think that there's no one left in the Tian family? He actually allowed her to kill him? Let's go. This clan head will personally kill that woman and let her know the consequences of offending the Tian family. Chapter 517. On top of the towering mountain range, a majestic and imposing mountain gate stood there. The bronze luster seemed particularly heavy under the sun. Yun Luofeng stopped in his tracks. His pitch-black eyes stared at the bronze gate in front of him and coldly ordered, "All of you, get out of my way." Yes. Qing Yin and Yi Ling both took 2 steps back. Even though Long Fei was a little confused, he still followed them and took a few steps back. After they had taken a few steps back, a long sword appeared in front of Yun Luofeng. The sword floated in the air and emitted a cold light. Slash! The girl's eyes were arrogant and her face was expressionless. Her tone was domineering and there was a sound when she landed. Boom! As soon as she finished speaking, the long sword slashed down from the void and slashed fiercely at the bronze door. In an instant, a crack appeared on the bronze door. Then the crack grew bigger and bigger and it spread out. In the end, it suddenly split open. Under Long Fei's shocked gaze, it suddenly split open. Who is so audacious to destroy the gate of the Tian clan? Suddenly, a loud shout came from inside the gate. Not long after, a middle-aged man with a cold expression led a group of people out of the gate. His sharp gaze was directed at Yun Luofeng. "Where's Zhongling?" Yun Luofeng asked directly. Tian Xin coldly curled the corners of his lips. Zhongling, is a member of the Tian clan. When did she become acquainted with someone from the secular world like you? You are not qualified to ask a disciple of the Tian clan to come out, even if she is only a child from a branch family. From Tianquan's point of view, Yun Luofeng did not have the right to associate with a member of the Tian clan. Since that was the case, why did he ask Zhongling to come out? Yun Luofeng had long been clear about the snobbish nature of the Tian clan. It could be seen from the harm that Tian had suffered back then. Therefore, faced with Tianquan's mockery, Yun Luofeng was unmoved. He continued, "I am here to find Zhongling. If you are not willing to hand her over, then I can only kill my way in." In an instant, a strong murderous intent ignited on the girl's body. She slightly raised her eyebrows, and her arrogant and unruly eyes stared coldly at Tianxian. Under the strong wind, her white dress fluttered even though there was no wind. Her domineering aura could not be ignored. "Ha ha ha!" Tianxian madly laughed twice. "I do want to see how are you going to kill your way into my Tian family. Men, take down these people who trespassed into the Tian family." "Yes, young master." After Tianquan's words fell, the disciples of the Tian family drew their weapons and charged at Yun Luofeng. At this moment, under the strong wind, the young girl slightly raised her eyebrows and her fine black hair danced in the wind. Her black eyes were as calm as ever, so calm that it made one's heart tremble. Long Fei, finish this battle quickly. Her gaze pierced through the people of the Tian family and landed on the middle-aged man standing in front of the bronze gate. There was a hint of killing intent in her black eyes. Long Fei heard Yin Luofeng's instructions and quickly pulled out his weapon. Like a gust of black wind, he shuttled back and forth in front of the disciples of the Tian family. When the gust of wind blew past, many disciples fell into a pool of blood. Some people didn't even know how they died. This guy's speed is too fast. Tianxin slightly narrowed his eyes, and a trace of surprise flashed across his eyes. Moreover, he is like a natural assassin. His aura is hard to capture. If this kind of person belongs to my Tian family, it will definitely make my Tian family stronger. Thinking of this, Tianxin did not bother about the disciples who had fallen to the ground and died. Instead, he made up his mind. Chapter 518. After all the disciples of the Tian family had fallen, Long Fei wiped off the bloodstains on his face. His cold gaze gradually turned towards the remaining Sky Xian. Clap, clap, clap. Tianxin's lips curled up as he applauded. Not bad. Your strength is not bad. I don't know why you listen to Yin Luofeng, but it's such a waste for you to follow him. If you're willing to pledge allegiance to the Tian family, I can let bygones be bygones. How about it? From Tianxin's point of view, letting bygones be bygones was already very magnanimous. If Yin Luofeng were to reject him, then he wouldn't know what's good for him. However, towards Tianxin's intention to rope him in, Long Fei only sneered in disdain. Tian family? What is that? Why should I pledge allegiance? I came here to flatten your Tian family, yet you want my allegiance? Tianxin's heart was filled with anger as he pointed at Long Fei. You think killing a few Tian family's disciples will prove that you're invincible? You're too naive. There are countless experts in the Tian family. People like you can't fight against them. Expert? Long Fei glanced at Tianxin. You're talking about you. That's right. The middle-aged man raised his head arrogantly. I'm one of the experts in the Tian family. A few years ago, I became a low-level sky spirit warrior. You're just a high-level earth spirit warrior. How can you be my opponent? In the entire Tian family, his talent was not bad. Other than his father, who had broken through to the intermediate sky spirit warrior, the elders of the Tian family were only low-level sky spirit warriors. However, he was only in his early 40s. There was a huge difference in age between him and those old farts. When he reaches this age, his achievements will definitely be greater than his father's. This was the reason for his arrogance. In this world, how many people's talent could surpass his? Although Long Fei broke through to the high-level Earth Spirit Warrior at such a young age, many Spirit Warriors are stuck at this stage. Even if they had 10 years, they still wouldn't be able to break through from high-level Earth Spirit Warrior to Sky Spirit Warrior. Therefore, he didn't put the person in front of him in his eyes. As for Yin Luofeng, at the age of 15, she had already reached the level of a low-level Earth Spirit. Her talent was indeed shocking. Unfortunately, she would soon be buried here and no one would remember her achievements in the future. Unfortunately, Tianxin still believed that Yin Luofeng was still an Earth spiritualist. If the matter of the Ning family spread, he would not dare to be so arrogant anymore. Whoosh! Long Fei didn't say much. A black shadow flashed and quickly appeared behind Tianxin. The scimitar in his hand slashed toward the back of Tianxin's neck. His eyes flashed with killing intent. However, Tianxin seemed to have eyes on the back of his head. When Long Fei slashed at the back of his neck, he suddenly turned around and waved his hand, sending a ray of light straight at Long Fei's chest. Struck by the ray of light, Long Fei retreated a few steps. The wound on his chest split open again. Blood bloomed like a rose, staining his robe. Master, should we help? Yi Ling frowned and turned to look at Yin Luofeng. Yin Luofeng shook his head. No need. He can handle it. He could handle it. These 4 words stunned Yi Ling, and the way she looked at Long Fei gradually became a little different. Since Master said so, it meant that this assassin's strength was far from that simple. He must have some trump card in his hands. Chapter 519. Kid, weren't you very arrogant earlier on? Tianxin raised his chin arrogantly and spoke sinisterly. Defeat me if you're so capable. Long Fei narrowed his eyes, and a cold light flashed across his eyes. Without any hesitation, he quickly attacked Tianxian once again. "You're still trying the same trick?" Tianxian sneered disapprovingly. He instantly turned around and slammed his palm towards the man in front of him. His eyes were filled with murderous intent. However, just as his palm slammed into the man's chest, the man's body suddenly turned into a puff of smoke and disappeared. An afterimage? Tianxian was stunned. Suddenly, he felt that something was amiss. Just as he was about to turn around to block the sudden attack of murderous intent, it was clearly too late. Tui, the scimitar slashed across Tianxuan's neck. Blood spurted out and dyed his entire neck red. "Kid, it seems that I've underestimated you." Tianxian took a few steps back and touched the blood on the back of his neck. When he saw that his hand was covered in blood, the murderous intent in his eyes intensified. "You actually used an afterimage to deceive me and evade my sight. However, there's an obvious difference between a heavenly spirit cultivator and an earth spirit cultivator." Once he had finished speaking, Tianxuan's body rose into the air and stood in midair. In the beginning, he had thought that it would be easy to defeat Long Fei. That was why he had not used his flight. However, he never thought that this kid would be so difficult to deal with. Since that was the case, he could only fight him in the air. Tianxian laughed again as he looked down at Long Fei. "If you're really that capable, let's fight it out in the air." If old Master Yin was here, he would probably curse at Tianxuan's shamelessness. As a heavenly spirit cultivator, he had actually allowed an earth spirit cultivator to fight him in the air. There weren't many people on this mainland who could be this shameless. Long Fei silently put his finger to his mouth and whistled. Not long after, the sound of birds chirping could be heard in the air. When everyone looked up, they saw a giant hummingbird flying across the sky. It was as fast as lightning and soon arrived in front of Long Fei. Long Fei gently rubbed the giant hummingbird's head. His eyes were gentle as he said, "Partner, I'm sorry. I didn't ask you to come with me to the Tian family. Now let's fight together." The great crested bird chirped happily when it heard the man's words. Long Fei leapt onto the bird's back and quickly rose into the sky. "You asked me to fight with you in the air. Now that I'm here, I wonder if we can start?" Long Fei's eyes were cold as he stared at Tianxian coldly. Tianxian's expression changed, as if he did not expect Long Fei to have a giant crested bird in his hands. But before he could say anything, the giant hummingbird screeched and launched an attack at the profound sky continent. Mistress, Yiling was a little surprised. Since Long Fei has a flying spiritual beast, why was he chased so miserably back then? Yin Luofeng stared deeply at the battle in the sky and said, "This giant hummingbird isn't very powerful. Even if Yiling had summoned it back then, it wouldn't have helped. At most, one more person died. It still couldn't escape the Tian family's pursuit." At that time, Long Fei was seriously injured and couldn't fight like he was now. If he had really summoned the giant hummingbird, it would have attracted the heavenly spirit cultivator's pursuit. The outcome would have been the same. Chapter 520. Furthermore, spiritual beasts like the giant hummingbird were not very intelligent. It was equivalent to a flying mount and would only listen to its master's orders. It would not take the initiative to save people. Yiling nodded in understanding and turned her attention back to the battle in the sky. In the sky, the giant hummingbird's huge body crashed into Tianxian. The bird's cry was deafening and sounded like a thunderclap exploding in his ears. This was the giant hummingbird's ability. Even though it was not very powerful, its cry could disturb the minds of others and cause their ears to ring. Swoosh! At this moment, Long Fei's body left the giant hummingbird's back and appeared behind Tianxian like a bolt of lightning. At this moment, it was too late for Tianxian to use his spiritual energy to block the giant hummingbird's cry. Long Fei's leg fiercely kicked Tianxian's buttocks and kicked his body down from the sky. Immediately after, Long Fei also fell from the sky. His foot stepped tightly on Tianxian's back. With a loud bang, the two of them dug a huge pit in the ground and buried it deep inside. Dust and smoke rose in all directions and covered the entire mountain gate. Tianxian coughed dryly and slowly climbed out of the pit. His gloomy eyes stared coldly at Long Fei's stern face and snorted. You've caused such a big commotion. You must have alarmed my father and the other elders of the Tian family. When they arrive, you will all die. Actually, Tian Xian was already regretting in his heart. He should not have come out to show off. He should have lured these people into the mountain gate and used a trap to kill them. But who knew that Yin Luofeng would have such a person by his side, using the power of an earth spirit to fight him to a standstill? If news of this were spread, he would definitely lose all face. That's right. In Tian Xian's heart, he had only fought to a standstill with Long Fei. He would never admit that he had lost. Xian. Suddenly, an elderly figure appeared in front of him. After hearing this voice, Tian Xian's heart was filled with excitement. He hurriedly looked at the elder who had just stepped out of the mountain gate and happily shouted, "Father!" Numerous elders of the Tian clan followed behind the old man. All of them were glaring at Yin Luofeng and the others with furious expressions on their faces. Lady Yun. The old man nodded at Tian Xian before turning to look at Yin Luofeng. He said calmly, "Don't you think you've gone too far? First, you killed my Tian family's men, and now you destroyed my Tian family's mountain gate. You even killed so many disciples. My Tian family did not provoke you, yet you did such a thing. Don't you want to give me an explanation?" Yin Luofeng's lips curled up, and his black eyes contained an evil smile. "I just want to know where Zhonglinger is. Since you guys aren't willing to tell me, then I can only use this method to see her. Zhonglinger is a member of my Tian family. Even if my Tian family wants to kill her, it has nothing to do with you. Aren't you meddling in other people's business?" The old man frowned and said indifferently. Yin Luofeng raised his eyebrows. "She is one of my people, so your Tian family cannot decide whether she lives or dies." "Humph." The old man coldly snorted. "If that's the case, then let me see your strength." Seeing that the old man was clearly angered, Tian Xian's eyes were filled with excitement. Father had finally decided to make a move. Let's see if these people still have the capital to be arrogant. Especially this woman, Yin Luofeng. She would not be able to withstand a single move from her father. No, father only needed to use his aura to kill her in a second. Chapter 521. A strong wind rose in front of the mountain gate, and the young girl's white robes fluttered in the wind. Her lips curled into a demonic angle as her pitch-black eyes stared straight at the old man in front of her. "All right," she responded to the old man's provocation with only one word. Compared to the old man's aggressive manner, her calmness was much more graceful. Impudent. The elders of the royal family were enraged. They rubbed their fists and rubbed their palms together, eager to teach this arrogant little girl a lesson. Unfortunately, just as they pulled out their weapons, the old man's cold voice rang in their ears. "All of you stand down." The old man narrowed his eyes and ordered in a stern voice. When the crowd heard this, they retreated behind the old man despite their unwillingness. "I will personally deal with this little girl." The old man's eyes filled with a stern aura as he stared at the demonic and languid young girl. He was so confident that he did not even pull out his weapon as he charged towards Yin Luofeng with great speed. How fast was a celestial spirit cultivator? By the time the crowd had regained their senses, he was already in front of Yin Luofeng. A swift and fierce wind whistled through the air, aiming straight for the young girl's peerlessly beautiful face. From the beginning, the young girl's eyes had remained calm, so calm that there was not a single ripple in them. However, when the old man's attack was right in front of her, the corners of the young girl's lips curled into an angle. This smile was evil and presumptuous. It was as if a cold and eerie aura had risen from the depths of the earth, causing everyone to tremble in fear. Boom! The old man gathered his thoughts and used all his might to attack Yin Luofeng. His attack was powerful, and even the surrounding air froze in an instant. "Ha ha! Yin Luofeng, this is the consequence of bringing someone to provoke the royal family." Tian Xian burst into laughter. From what he could see, Yin Luofeng would undoubtedly die under his father's attack. However, his smile soon froze, and his eyes widened in shock. He stared in disbelief at Yin Luofeng, who had suddenly disappeared into thin air. His eyes were filled with disbelief. That was right. Just as the old man's swift and fierce attack was about to land, Yin Luofeng suddenly disappeared into thin air. As a result, the wind from his palm slammed into the ancient tree in front of him. Instantly, the tree collapsed with a loud bang, and dust filled the sky. Where is she? The elders of the Tian family were also stunned. They couldn't believe that a living person suddenly disappeared just like that. However, right when everyone was extremely bewildered, a timid voice suddenly resounded from nowhere. All of you look, up in the sky. Isn't that Yin Luofeng? Hearing this person's words, everyone couldn't help but raise their heads and look at the azure sky. High up in the sky, the young woman stood with her hands behind her back, her white robes fluttering in the wind. It was as if she was the most beautiful scene in the sky, causing everyone to involuntarily hold their breaths. Heavenly spiritualist? Oh my God, she's actually a sky spirit Esper, a 15-year-old. It's such a pity that this woman didn't belong to my Tian family. The elders of the Tian family were stunned. She could fly in the air. What did this mean? This meant that this 15-year-old girl was actually a celestial spirit practitioner. Who in the world could break through to become a heavenly spirit being at the age of 15? Among everyone, the one who was the most shocked was obviously Tian Xian. His expression was stiff, and his body began to tremble violently. Previously, he even said that for him to be able to become a celestial spirit practitioner at this age was already very good, and that no one could be compared to him. Chapter 5:22. However, he had never expected a 15-year-old girl to possess the power of a celestial spirit practitioner. Xianer, the old man's face darkened slightly. Didn't you say that Yin Luofeng was only an earth spirit? What's going on? Tian Xian smiled bitterly. Father, she was indeed a low-rank earth spiritualist a few months ago. I don't know what's going on either. Pa! The old man swung his palm at Tian Xian and coldly said, You don't know? You actually have the nerve to tell me that you don't know? Are you going to tell me that Yin Luofeng broke through from an earth spirit to a celestial spirit in just a few short months? Do you think I'm stupid? Even the reincarnation of a spiritual god would not be able to advance from an earth spiritual being to a heavenly spiritual being in just a few months, let alone an ordinary human like Yin Luofeng. Therefore, it was no wonder that the old man would suspect Tian Xian. I'll settle the score with you after I've dealt with this woman. The old man glanced at Tian Xian gloomily as his voice was filled with a trace of coldness. After saying this, he turned to Yin Luofeng and coldly said, Lady Yun, your talent is indeed not bad. If you hadn't killed so many people from my Tian family, I would have the intention to rope you in. Yin Luofeng raised his eyebrows. Even if I didn't kill anyone from the Tian family, I will never join your Tian family. Even without Zhong Linger's matter, it's impossible for her to have any good impression of the Tian family. The reason was because of World's Edge. Although she didn't accept Tianya as her disciple, Tian you could at least be considered an old friend of hers. Thus, why would she join the Tian family that hurt Tianya? Hee, little girl, you are indeed very arrogant. Hearing Yin Luofeng's words, the elder laughed in anger. However, I don't know if you'll still be able to say such arrogant words later. Yin Luofeng glanced at Tianya with a smile on his face. I'm in a bit of a rush, so why don't all of your Tian family's heavenly spirit practitioners come up together? That way, I can finish this quickly. Originally, the elder had already thought that Yin Luofeng's performance was arrogant enough, but now he realized that he hadn't understood him well enough. This young girl was arrogant to the point of angering both humans and gods. She's just a low-level celestial spirit being, so what makes her think that she can deal with so many celestial spirit beings on her own? What's more, there was an intermediate heavenly spirit warrior among them. Yin Luofeng, who do you think you are? How dare you not put my Tian family in your eyes? The elders of the Tian family couldn't stand the girl's provocation. Each of them was enraged and pulled out their weapons, glaring at the girl in midair. Yes, your talent is indeed abnormal. However, do you think that you could defeat all the experts of our Tian family with your own strength? Aren't you being too arrogant? Patriarch, since she has already said so, what are we waiting for? If I don't teach her a lesson, she'll forget her place. Tian Xian's eyes darkened. He licked the corner of his mouth as a bloodthirsty glint appeared in his eyes. Father, I also request a fight. He had long wanted to make a move against Yun Luofeng, but after learning of her strength, he was frightened. But who would have thought that this young girl would seek her own death by challenging everyone by herself? Wasn't this a great opportunity for him? This isn't appropriate. Even though the elder's heart was burning with anger, for the sake of his face, he still spoke out to stop the crowd. There are so many of us bullying a little girl. If word gets out, where will the Tian family's face go? Her white dress fluttered in the wind like a white lotus in full bloom. I'll give you two a handicap. How about that? Arrogant, domineering, not only did she challenge all of them, but she also declared that she would finish them off in half a cup of tea's time. Now, she even said that she would let them use both hands. How could anyone endure such blatant provocation? Therefore, after Yin Luofeng spoke, everyone from the Yun clan was enraged. They angrily dashed towards her with murderous intent in their eyes. Yun Luofeng's figure flashed, and she dodged the fastest patriarch of the Tian family. Then, she charged towards the rest of the elders. With a loud bang, her soul attack landed heavily on the other party's mind. Just as his mind went blank, her leg kicked fiercely towards his body, kicking him down from the sky. Chapter 5:24. She had used a lot of strength in that kick. Even if the other party wasn't crippled, he would be severely injured and lose the ability to fight. Following that, she used the same trick again. She dodged the Tian family's master's attack and only attacked the low-rank heavenly spiritualist elder. Not long after, all the elders were kicked down from the sky, leaving only the old man and Tian Xian in the sky. Who exactly are you? Tian Xian's body trembled in fear. He bit his pale lips and said, "Why were those elders defeated by you without any resistance? What did you do to them?" Yin Luofeng narrowed his eyes and smiled evilly. "Won't you know what I did to them if you try?" Just as the fear in Tianxuan's eyes grew, a loud bang exploded in his mind. Before he could react, a leg fiercely kicked him in the chest. In an instant, he felt a burning pain in his internal organs. He spat out a mouthful of blood, and his body fell to the ground, unable to hold on any longer. Actually, Yin Luofeng didn't even need to use a soul attack to defeat these people. However, she felt that it was a waste of time, so she wanted to end the battle quickly. The old man's face was slightly pale. His tightly clenched fist trembled slightly as he stared at Yin Luofeng. "Little girl, I've really underestimated you. You can actually injure so many people under my attack." The elder felt very aggrieved, because after so many attacks, not a single one landed on Yin Luofeng's body. Furthermore, she had defeated so many of the Tian clan's elders under his attacks. This was clearly a slap to his face. At the thought of this, the old man felt a little pain on his cheeks, and the corners of his mouth couldn't help but twitch. "You're the only one left." Yin Luofeng's gaze gradually turned towards the old man. He slowly walked towards him. "In order to save time, I dealt with the other trash first. Now it's your turn." Her voice was neither loud nor soft, but came down from the sky. Hearing the girl's words, the elders of the Tian family were furious, but they had no words to refute. Who asked so many of them to be unable to deal with a young girl? "Hee," the old man sneered. "I'm an intermediate heavenly spiritualist. Even if I can't kill you, you can't kill me. How about this? Didn't you say that you would defeat us in half a cup of tea's time? There's still a bit of time left. If you can't defeat me in this time, then you'll lose." The old man paused, then continued. "If you lose, then kneel down and kowtow a few times and become a servant of the Tian family. You of the Tian family." His voice drifted along the mountain path, causing Longfei to widen his eyes. To widen them of his eyes. Wasn't this old man a bit too of him, of to him, of? Of Tion of the of to the of the Tion. Yin Luo Feng glanced at the old man. I, Yin Luo Feng, never suffer a loss. To of long, of the time. Yin I was yin of yin. I of to of. We've already wasted a lot of time talking. If you don't hurry up, half a cup of tea's time will be up. Chapter 5:25. Yin Luo Feng smiled. When I said never to lose, I mean I will never accept a one-sided bet. If I defeat you within the time limit, what will you pay? Huh? The old man laughed out loud. His eyebrows were full of confidence. I'm at your disposal. I'm not interested in you. Yin Luo Feng gently touched his chin. Why don't you let everyone in the Tion family crawl from the top of the mountain to the foot of the mountain? With every step, you have to humiliate yourself. Of course, the more humiliating the words, the better. If the humiliation isn't strong enough, then you all have to start all over again. The old man's face changed. He viciously said, Isn't this a bit too ruthless? This is only one aspect. Yin Luo Feng smiled evilly. The second point is that I want Zhong Linger to appear in one piece. If she loses a single hair, I will kill one person. The old man's face became uglier. His eyes flashed with darkness. Yin Luo Feng, I only made one request. Why do you have to make two requests? This is too unfair. Yin Luo Feng blinked his eyes. You also know it's unfair? If you think it's unfair, then we can change the way of the bet until one side loses. How about it? Plus, the second request I made isn't the bet. I'm just informing you all. If she wanted to kill someone, the Tion family wouldn't be able to stop her. Thus, this sentence was just to inform the Tion family and not the bet. The old man sneered. Yin Luo Feng, you're really timid. You want me to change the way of the bet. Unfortunately, I won't do as you wish. I agree to your bet. Now it's almost half a cup of tea's time. I want to see what you're going to use to defeat me. Even if Yin Luo Feng defeated all the elders of the Tion family in a short period of time, it didn't mean she could defeat him in the following period of time. As for him, he only needed to dodge her technique. Try to delay for half a cup of tea's time. Also, don't forget, you said before that you don't need to use your hands to fight. The old man shamelessly added another sentence. Long Fei was angered by this old man. No wonder this old man could do such a thing in the past. Such shameless behavior was really incomparable. However, as the person involved, Yin Luo Feng, smiled and said, Sure. Looking at the young girl's confident eyes, the old man suddenly had a bad feeling in his heart. However, the arrow was knocked on the bowstring, and he had no choice but to release it. He could not go back on his word. Therefore, he gritted his teeth and said, If that's the case, then let's start the battle now. Hua. After saying that, the old man did not fight Yin Luo Feng head-on. Instead, he chose to turn around and leave, fleeing into the distance. At the same time, Yin Luo Feng's figure rapidly chased after the old man like a bolt of lightning. Seeing that the young girl was about to catch up to him, the old man hurriedly turned around, and a sword light suddenly streaked across the void, rushing towards the young girl. Yin Luo Feng's body moved to the side, and she dodged this sword light. Because of this action, she once again widened the distance between her and the old man. The old man glanced at Yin Luo Feng, who had caught up to them once again. The corners of his lips curled into a mocking smile. Little girl, you're still too inexperienced to accept my wager so easily. I'm definitely going to win this bet. Is that so? Just as he finished speaking, a white silhouette suddenly landed before him and blocked his way. Chapter 5:26. The elder was stunned as he stared at Yin Luo Feng in astonishment. His face was filled with disbelief. How did you get in front of me? This woman had been a distance away from him just now. How had she appeared in front of him without him noticing? Yin Luo Feng stared at the elder's astonished gaze and shrugged her shoulders. I was just messing with you earlier. She had given him hope and plunged him into despair. This was Yin Luo Feng's revenge against the elder. Boom! The soul attack struck the elder's mind once again. However, the elder had already entered the intermediate stage of a heavenly spirit warrior after all. Hence, he recovered in the blink of an eye. However, in the blink of an eye, Yin Luofeng's leg had already landed fiercely on the elder's face, causing him to stumble back a few steps. Sparks flew in the air from the friction. Yin Luofeng. The elder's face was ashen. You know how to attack the soul? This time, he had been too careless. He never thought that Yin Luofeng would not only be so fast, but also know how to attack the soul. No wonder so many people from the Tian family had been kicked out in the blink of an eye. Yin Luofeng did not answer the elder's question. Her figure flashed, and she appeared behind the elder once again. In the instant that the old man turned around, another soul attack was unleashed. Then, her leg kicked the old man's waist, causing him to howl in pain. What followed next was a one-sided trampling. Soul attacks were godly cheaters in the first place. Unless the elder's strength had reached the advanced stage of a heavenly spirit warrior, he would not be able to resist her soul attack. Unfortunately, because he was not strong enough, he would be hit every time Yin Luofeng unleashed her soul attack. It's about time. Yin Luofeng looked at the sky and no longer continued to trample on him. She directly kicked the elder's body into the ground. With a loud bang, the elder's body smashed into the ground, creating a huge pit. After the battle, countless deep pits had appeared on the mountain path. Each of the pits had a person lying in it, wailing in agony. Why? The old man dug his fingers into the soil as he glared angrily at the young girl who was slowly descending from the sky. He gritted his teeth and asked, "Why do you have to torture me like this when you've dealt with them all in one blow?" At this moment, the elder understood that Yin Luofeng could defeat him in an instant with that soul attack. However, she did not do so. Instead, she was toying with him like a cat toying with a mouse. Yin Luofeng stood in front of the old man and looked down at him. For one person, before coming to the Tian family, he had already investigated everyone in the Tian family. This old man was the Tian family's patriarch and also Tianya's biological younger brother. Yet back then, he did something that harmed Tianya. That was the reason why she was tormenting him like this. Her goal was to help Tianya vent his anger. Long Fei looked at Yin Luofeng with a face of worship. He felt that he did not follow the wrong person this time. Even if his master found out, he would still encourage him to continue following behind her. I've already completed the bet on time. Yin Luofeng lifted his chin slightly. Now, shouldn't you fulfill your end of the bargain and make everyone in the Tian family crawl down the mountain on their knees? Suddenly, the old man laughed. His smile was filled with murderous intent as he said word by word, "Dream on. I'd rather die than suffer such humiliation. Furthermore, you can't kill me." Chapter 5:27. Yin Luofeng narrowed her eyes as she stared at the old man's confident face. The corners of her lips curled into an angle. "Are you sure?" Her 3 words were powerful and resonant, slowly echoing on the mountain path that was full of holes. The old man's eyes darkened a bit. He propped himself up from the big pit and coldly said, "Yin Luofeng, if you still want Zhonglinger's life, then kneel down and beg me. Maybe I will let him go." A complacent smile hung on his elderly face as he stared arrogantly at Yin Luofeng. Indeed, upon hearing the old man's words, Yin Luofeng, who had been slowly approaching him, stopped in her tracks and stared deeply at him. The old man burst into laughter. "So what if you've won? In the end, don't you still have to listen to my orders? I'll give you one chance. Kneel before me, and I will immediately return Zhonglinger to you." To him, he no longer cared about face. He only wanted to humiliate the young girl before him to quell the anger in his heart. Yin Luofeng did not speak and stared at him silently. Her dark eyes were calm and without the slightest ripple of emotion. No one could tell what she was thinking. "What do you think? Isn't this a good deal? All you need to do is kowtow a few times and you'll get life back. No matter how you look at it, you made a profit." Upon hearing the old man's words, the young girl's brows finally moved. She slowly raised her hand, and with a whoosh, a long sword appeared out of thin air and charged towards the old man. The old man's reaction was relatively quick, and he quickly moved his body to the side, narrowly dodging the attack. Even so, his shoulder was still cut by the long sword and fresh blood flowed out. Yin Luo Feng, it seems that you really don't care about Zhonglinger's life. Since that's the case, just you wait to collect her corpse. The old man spat viciously. However, just as he finished speaking, Yin Luo Feng flicked her finger and a black pill shot out from her fingertip. Just as the old man was about to close his mouth, it shot into it. Caught off guard, the old man swallowed a mouthful of saliva and swallowed the black pill as well. You've plotted against me. The old man's expression changed, and he roared angrily. Yin Luo Feng gently raised his brows and stared at the old man's furious face with a forced smile. Her gaze completely angered the old man. He coldly snorted and said, "Fine, since you insist on acting recklessly, then I will immediately send out the signal flare. After seeing my signal flare, the people from the Tian family will immediately kill Zhonglinger." After saying that, the old man's gaze shifted. "However, I have always been magnanimous. If you give me the antidote and kowtow to me, I will still let her go. Let Zhonglinger off? How could this be? If it weren't for that lowly girl, Yin Luo Feng wouldn't have been attracted here. Therefore, after humiliating Yin Luo Feng, he would immediately send someone to kill Zhonglinger." Yin Luo Feng glanced at the old man and said indifferently, "What I just gave you is the body-tearing and bone-shattering pill. After taking this pill, I will make you taste the feeling of having your body torn to pieces. Even if you can endure this pain, it doesn't matter. I can make your soul scatter." At this point, the girl paused and continued, "Exchanging your soul for Zhonglinger's life is not a loss for her." "What do you mean by a threat?" Yin Luo Feng had used it to the point of perfection. "You want to kill Zhonglinger? Sure. If she loses her life, she still has the chance to be reincarnated. However, I won't even give you this chance. This way, Zhonglinger would not be a loss." Chapter 528. The old man's eyes finally revealed a look of horror. He couldn't help but take a few steps back as he looked at Yin Luo Feng with an ugly expression. "Are you trying to scare me?" Yin Luo Feng raised the corner of his lips. "Whether I'm trying to scare you or not, you'll know soon enough." After the young girl finished speaking, the old man's body suddenly felt a sharp pain. The pain was like a stone slab constantly rubbing against his body. It was so painful that he couldn't extricate himself. At the same time, a dark green flame appeared around him. This flame burned his body to the point that even his soul felt like it was being torn apart. Soul fire. It was actually soul fire. Just how powerful was this young girl's soul? Even the soul fire could be mobilized. He believed that if this continued, his soul would definitely scatter and he would never be able to reincarnate. "Stop, quickly stop." The old man cried out mournfully. "I promise you, I'll return Zhonglinger to you. Quickly stop. Why should I believe you?" Yin Luofeng's eyebrows slightly raised. "Since I'm going to bring Long Fei to find Zhonglinger. After I see Zhonglinger, I'll decide your life and death. If she's even the slightest bit injured, I'll let you experience the feeling of your soul scattering." The old man's heart suddenly became anxious. He secretly prayed that Zhonglinger's father didn't use any torture on her. Otherwise, he was afraid that his soul would really scatter and scatter. "Tianxian." The old man gritted his teeth. "Bring him to Tian Zhu's residence." "Yes, father." Tianxian's eyes were gloomy. Seeing his own father suffer a crushing defeat at the hands of Yin Luo Feng, he didn't dare to have any thoughts of resistance. He could only bring Long Fei inside the door. With Tianxian's lead, those traps were nothing. Long Fei very smoothly entered the Tian family's residence at this time. In a remote courtyard, Tian Zhu was holding a stick in his hand and fiercely hitting the young girl's snow-white skin. The young girl's clothes had already been torn to pieces. Her messy hair fell behind her. Her body was full of shocking stick marks. Her pale face was overflowing with beads of sweat. She bit her bloodless lips and welcomed Tianju's staff without making a sound. "Rebellious girl. I regretted letting your mother give birth to a rebellious girl like you. You're going to drive me crazy." Tianju fiercely scolded Zhonglinger, as if he wanted to vent all the humiliation he had suffered outside on her. If you obediently listen to the patriarch, I will also rise with you, and I won't have to be bullied by those direct descendants. Let me tell you, you are my daughter. Without me, there would be no you. Whatever I tell you to do, you must do it. You are not allowed to disobey." Zhonglinger sneered and closed her eyes. Her pale face showed that she was not afraid of death. She will never listen to the order of the Tian family. In this life, the only one who could make her submit was Yun Luofeng alone. Seeing Zhonglinger's stubborn look, Tianju became even angrier. He scooped up some salt water and poured it on Zhonglinger. Hiss! The salt water seeped into her damaged skin, causing her to feel a sharp pain. She gasped in pain, and her petite body trembled. "Zhonglinger, if you want to join the Tian family's genealogy, then go and seduce young Master Tianyu." Tianyu was the #1 person in the younger generation of the Tian family. He was also the patriarch's grandson. Therefore, Tianju asked Zhonglinger to seduce Tianyu. Chapter 529. I've already said that I have no interest in your Tian family. I also don't want to change my surname to Tian. Zhonglinger suddenly opened her eyes and angrily turned around to stare coldly at Tianju. "You're courting death." Hearing this, Tianju became even angrier. He swung his rod down, and with a bang, a bright red mark was left on Zhonglinger's back. Zhonglinger spat out a mouthful of blood. Her internal organs felt a sharp pain. She sneered and said, "No matter how you hit me, I will not listen to you." Impudent. "Zhonglinger, if it wasn't for your looks, I wouldn't have let you seduce young Master Tianyu. With your identity, to be young Master Tianyu's concubine, you really have to burn incense." Zhonglinger sneered in her heart and retorted, "If I follow Master, I can be a legitimate wife. But if I enter the Tian family, I can only be a concubine, wife and concubine. It is clear who is more valuable. I really don't know if I should call you stupid or stupid. Being a concubine of a noble young master is better than being a servant's wife. Don't you understand this? I, Zhonglinger, would rather be a poor man's wife than a rich man's concubine. I don't need to live a luxurious life. I just don't need to worry about food and clothing." Zhonglinger supported her body and stood up. Her body was a bit shaky as she leaned against the ancient tree behind her. Her bright eyes were filled with determination. In life, to be able to grow old together with one person is far better than living a luxurious life. Long Fei had just arrived when he heard Zhonglinger's words. Even though her voice was very weak, in Long Fei's ears, it was as clear as an aureole. It was extremely beautiful. Better to be a poor man's wife than a rich man's concubine. On this continent where the strong preyed on the weak, how many people would have such a noble character? Therefore, Zhonglinger's words made Long Fei involuntarily feel admiration for this stubborn girl. Just as he was about to speak, he suddenly saw Zhonglinger's body fall to the ground. He was stunned for a moment. Without thinking, he quickly rushed forward and caught the delicate body that was about to fall. Zhonglinger's eyelashes trembled. Her expression was weak. Her body was covered with crisscross scars, making her look extremely weak. Long Fei's heart faintly ignited with anger. His cold eyes turned to Tianju. "Who are you?" When Tianju saw Long Fei appear, he couldn't help but frown. "Don't you know that this is the Tian family? How dare you barge in without permission?" Long Fei sneered. He picked up Zhonglinger's body and coldly said, "She is your daughter. Not only did you not raise her for a day, you even tormented her like this. What is the difference between a person like you and a beast?" On the way to the Tian family, Qing Yin and the rest had told Long Fei about the purpose of their trip. As such, Long Fei was well aware of the relationship between Zhonglinger and the Tian family. Even if Tianju didn't like Zhonglinger, her body still had his blood. How could he bear to treat her like this? She is my daughter. If I want to beat her, I will beat her. If I want to kill her, I will kill her. Who do you think you are? What right do you have to interfere in my business? Since I gave her life, then no matter how I treat her, she is not allowed to resist. Long Fei hugged Zhonglinger's body tightly and coldly looked at Tianju. "I'm afraid you can't decide this woman's life. Plus, don't count on the Tian family to save you. Right now, They can't even protect themselves. What? Tianju was stunned for a moment. He didn't understand what Long Fei meant. The other party's fist landed on his body and blasted him away. Chapter 530. Pucci. Tianju spat out a mouthful of blood and fell to the ground with a pale face. Then, Long Fei took a large step forward, grabbed his clothes, and quickly walked out of the courtyard. Outside the mountain gate, it was silent. It was so quiet that even the sound of the wind could be heard clearly. Yin Luofeng crossed his arms and leaned against a tree. He quietly listened to the mournful wails of the old man. The Tian family elder did not dare to say a word, afraid that Yin Luofeng's gaze would be attracted to him, and he would suffer the same punishment as the patriarch. At this moment, the mountain gate was once again opened. Long Fei, who was holding Zhonglinger in one hand and Tianju in the other, suddenly appeared in front of everyone. Yin Luofeng's face turned cold with Long Fei's appearance. His body surged with a cold aura, and his black eyes revealed a cold, murderous intent. It's over. After seeing Zhonglinger's body full of scars, the old man's heart suddenly sank. His face was slightly frightened, and he secretly cursed Tianju in his heart. This son of a bitch, he actually beat Zhonglinger up like this. If it was a normal day, it would be fine. But now, Zhonglinger's life was related to his. According to Yin Luofeng, if Zhonglinger was even the slightest bit injured, his soul would fly away and scatter. Patriarch Elder, save me. Tianju saw the old man trapped in the flames. He did not know what had happened and hurriedly cried out. But before he could finish speaking, a snow-white figure swiftly tore through the horizon and appeared before him. The young girl did not look at him. She quickly took out a spirit herb from her sleeve and handed it to Long Fei. Feed it to her. Long Fei was stunned. How do you feed it? Chew it. After the young girl finished speaking, Long Fei's face became very embarrassed. However, he still took the spirit herb from Yin Luofeng and slowly chewed it. After handing the spirit herb to Long Fei, Yin Luofeng's gaze gradually turned to Tianju. He slightly raised his eyebrows. Her injuries were caused by you? From beginning to end, Tianju did not think that he was wrong. Zhonglinger's life was given by him. So what if he took it back? What right did these people have to be nosy? So what if I did it? She is my daughter. Bang! Without waiting for Tianju to finish his sentence, Yin Luofeng grabbed his clothes tightly and ruthlessly smashed him down from above. Tianju's buttocks were split in half, and his internal organs were in pain. He was a little angry and wanted to say something, but he was interrupted by the girl's arrogant voice. I've said this before. If she has any trace of injury, I will kill a member of the Tian family. Now that she was seriously injured, she could only bury the entire Tian family with her. And now let's start with you. As if sensing the girl's strong, murderous intent, Tianju finally felt fear. He clutched his aching chest and said, Master, he won't let you have your way. Yin Luofeng sneered. He's just a loser. His soul will scatter very soon. It was only then that Tianju saw the old man's face, which was almost distorted by the flames. His heart suddenly trembled. As the patriarch of an intermediate celestial spirit being, he was defeated by this young girl? How is this possible? Master, Long Fei looked at Yin Luofeng and said, When I went to save her just now, I saw a basin of salt water in the courtyard. Zhonglinger's body also smelled of salt, so I boldly guessed that this beast must have beaten Zhonglinger and used the salt water to torture her. Chapter 531. As soon as Long Fei finished speaking, a cold aura came from the soles of Tianju's feet and penetrated into his heart. It was so cold that his entire body shivered. He looked up in horror at the girl with cold eyes in front of him. Qing Yin, Yi Ling. Yin Luofeng raised his eyebrows slightly and ordered in a cold voice, I wanted to pay back double for how he treated Zhonglinger. You will handle this matter. Die. It was too easy for this kind of person who was worse than a beast. She would never let him die so easily. Yes, Miss Master. Qing Yin and Yi Ling understood Yin Luofeng's meaning. They cupped their fists and walked towards Tianju, who was lying on the ground. You, don't come over. When Tianju saw Yun Luofeng approaching him. The horror in his eyes intensified. He was just about to call for help when Qing Yin leaped and landed a foot on Tianju's body. Tianju almost vomited blood from her foot, and his face was deathly pale. But this was not enough. Just as Tianju's heart was trembling more and more, Qing Yin took out a dagger from somewhere and placed it on Tianju's face. She smiled sinisterly and said, "Master, what do you think I should start? Should he cut off his nose or his ears first? That's right, there's also salt water. Yilong, help me prepare the salt water." This fellow had tortured Zhonglinger to such a state. She would make her beg for life, but she would not be able to die. Yilong looked at Qing Yin lovingly and turned to walk in front of Tianxian. His cold eyes flashed coldly as he said, "If you don't want to end up like him, prepare a basin of salt water for me in half an incense stick's time." Tianxian was startled. He looked at Tianju, who was being stepped on by Qing Yin, and finally made up his mind to walk towards the mountain gate. Tianju's heart turned completely cold. He did not know what had happened that the young master would listen to these people's orders. Half an incense stick's time is about right. Qing Yin narrowed her eyes and looked at Tianju with a smile. "I think it's better to cut off your hand first. I wonder which hand did you use to hurt Zhonglinger?" Qing Yin had been by Yun Luofeng's side for the longest time, so she had learned some of the young girl's ruthlessness. Her delicate face was full of smiles. Her curved eyes were like crescent moons, bright and moving. But it was from the mouth of this seemingly harmless little servant girl that such cruel words came out of her mouth. Tianju was so scared that his face turned pale. He didn't dare to speak, but his trembling body revealed the fear in his heart. "Since you won't tell me, I'll chop off both of your arms." The dagger in Qing Yan's hand gradually moved to Tianju's arm. The smile on her face became increasingly cruel. "No!" Tianju's eyes widened in horror. Just as he shouted, the dagger in Qing Yan's hand fell. Although the dagger was small, it was very sharp. In an instant, the man's arm was chopped off. Fresh blood splattered and dyed Qing Yan's clothes red. Tianju, on the other hand, fainted on the spot from the intense pain. Enough! The old man, who was trapped in the fire of the soul, could not stand it anymore. He shouted and said with a trembling voice, "Yun Luofeng, even if Tianju is wrong, don't you think that your servant girl is too ruthless? He only used a stick to hit Zhonglinger, but your servant girl chopped off one of his arms. Such a cruel and merciless person is not fit to be called a woman." Yun Luofeng curled his lips slightly. "If I hadn't come to find her, I don't know how your Tian family would have mistreated her. So, I won't have any mercy for the people of the Tian family. How you hurt her, I'll make you pay 100-fold. Chapter 532. The elder immediately fell silent. He knew that Yun Luofeng was telling the truth. If she had not come to save Zhonglinger, based on Tianju's cruel nature, Zhonglinger's fate would not have been any better. Therefore, he could only sigh helplessly as despair gradually appeared in his eyes. At this moment, Tianxian had already brought a basin of salt water to Yilong. His face was ashen as he placed the basin of salt water down before snorting and returning to the Tian family's group. Whoosh! Qing Yin scooped up a basin of salt water and poured it over Tianju's broken arm. The sharp pain woke Tianju up instantly. He looked at Qing Yin, who was smiling like a demon, and his face turned pale. I beg you, let me go." His voice was hoarse, and his eyes were pleading. It was only at this moment that he finally understood the meaning of fear. "Let you go?" Qing Yin giggled. "Then, did you want to let Zhonglinger go at that time?" Tianju opened his mouth, but his throat was dry. He knew that he had indeed failed miserably this time. "Since you had no intention of letting Zhonglinger go back then, why should I let you go?" Qing Yin raised her chin and looked down at Tianju condescendingly. Tianju closed his eyes in despair. At this moment, he wished that he could pass out again. It would be better than facing these demons. There's no need for the Tian family to remain. Yun Luofeng's casual words had already determined the fate of the Tian family. Yun Luofeng. Tianxian's expression changed drastically as he roared angrily. "I admit that your talent is not bad. You're also very strong. However, The person behind the Tian family is Tianya. Tianya has long reached the realm above the celestial spirit realm. It's fine if you only wanted to punish the Tian family a little, but now you want to destroy the Tian family. Do you think that Tianya will allow your actions? In any case, the Tian family was Tianya's family, and his father was Tianya's younger brother. No matter how heartless he was towards the Tian family, it was impossible for him to sit and watch as the Tian family was destroyed. This was where Tian Xian's confidence came from. Yun Luofeng's evil eyes swept towards Tian Xian. A few decades ago, Tianya became famous at a young age. Your Tian family had placed great hopes on him, but Tianya fell in love with a woman who was not recognized by the Tian family. Because of this, you did not hesitate to frame him in unrighteousness, causing two people who love each other to be separated. If I didn't guess incorrectly, Tianya already hates your Tian family to the bone. Why would he continue to help you? Tian Xian's expression changed abruptly as he clenched his fists tightly. His ashen face was shrouded in a monstrous rage. Who are you? The old man, who was surrounded by flames, raised his head to look at Yun Luofeng. His elderly features were almost twisted as he stared fixedly at her. You can't possibly know about this. The reason why Tianya had left the Tian family back then, other than a few higher-ups of the Tian family, only the heads of some powerful factions could inquire about this information. Even the disciples of the Tian family couldn't understand it. Thus, over the years, the disciples of the Tian family had used Tianya's famous doctors to act like a tyrant. But now, a mere granddaughter of a general of Long Yuan country actually knew about the secrets of the Tian family? This made the old man suspect her identity. Hee, little girl, you're missing something. Suddenly, an old voice rang out from the void. Then, under everyone's gaze, an old man in white stepped through the void and slowly walked over. Chapter 533. Looking at the little old man who appeared out of thin air, everyone from the Tian family was stunned. They didn't think that Tianya, who hadn't returned for a long time, would appear here. Then, a sense of joy emerged in their hearts. Tianya was here. They were saved. The little old man was dragging a cute little girl in his arms. This little girl had clearly fainted in the air, foaming at the mouth and rolling her eyes. Suddenly, she seemed to have felt something and slowly opened her eyes. Her body flew towards Yun Luofeng. Master, Tianya, this bad guy flew so fast that I feel like I'm seeing stars and my limbs are weak, Lin Ruobai pouted and said. However, her words stunned everyone present. The little girl that Tianya brought was actually Yun Luofeng's disciple? Then what was the relationship between Yun Luofeng and Tianya? Instantly, a bad feeling surged into their hearts, making them tense up. You're here. Yun Luofeng curled his lips slightly and turned to Tianya. You said that I missed something. I wonder what you're talking about. The little old man looked at the Tian family's leader and said mockingly, This is all because of my good brother. Back then, I left the Tian family in a fit of rage. They were afraid that my talent would be used by others, so they didn't hesitate to send experts to hunt me down. Luckily, I was tough and didn't die in their hands. Instead, I achieved what I have today. When the old man, who was surrounded by spirit flames, heard Tianya's words, his expression changed instantly. Tianya, what nonsense are you spouting? We're blood relatives, and the Tian family is also your family. Why would they hunt you down? The person who wants to kill you is that woman, Fu Sheng. T. Hearing the old man's words, Long Fei flew into a rage. After saying that, he suddenly came to his senses and realized that his reaction was a little too extreme. He hurriedly steadied his mind and said in a cold voice, Everyone knows what kind of conduct your Tian family has. Now, you dare to push the blame and accuse an innocent woman. Unfortunately, no one will believe your words. These bastards actually dared to say that his master wanted to kill Tianya. How is that possible? Since leaving the Tian family that year, his master had gone to that place and hadn't left for decades. On the other hand, he was lucky enough to enter that place because he was injured, and he was fortunate enough to be saved by his master. Moreover, he was taken as a disciple by his master, and that was how he found out about his master's past. Now that they saw that Master had been missing for so many years, they naturally framed him. These shameless people deserve to die. Tianya did not hear anything strange from Long Fei's words. As a result, he did not even glance at him. Instead, he stared coldly at the old man with a gaze filled with ridicule. You think I'm so stupid that I don't even know who's after me? Tiani, do you think you're too powerful? Or do you think I'm stupid? Tian Yi's entire body was trembling from the burning of the soul flame. Now that he heard Tianya's words, his trembling grew even more intense. I remember that all of you had a part in hunting me down back then. Tianya turned to the elders of the Tian family. Murderous intent surged out as he said coldly, "What's funny is that all of you thought that I didn't know anything and even dared to use my name to commit crimes. If I hadn't spent all my time looking for Fu Sheng, the Tian family would have long ceased to exist." Chapter 534. A hint of despair appeared in the depths of Tian Yi's eyes. Since you said that the reason why you haven't made a move against our Tian family all these years is because you spent all your time searching for Fu Sheng, why have you come to our Tian family now? Because Tianya curled the corners of his lips. I heard that the Tian family had captured Yun Luofeng's maidservant, so I'm only here to help her get her back and to settle the score with the Tian family. Tian Yi lifted his head and stared at Tianya in astonishment. The despair in his eyes turned into shock. Tianya had meant to say that he was very busy and had no time to settle the score with the Tian family. Yet now, for the sake of Yun Luofeng, he was willing to put aside everything at hand and come to help her vent her anger. Just how close must their relationship be for Tianya to make such a decision? The others turned towards Yun Luofeng as well. Their expressions were just short of asking her what was her relationship with Tianya. Uncle Tianya, Tian Xin spoke in a daze, asking the question that everyone wanted to ask. Who is this woman to you? Logically speaking, based on Tianya's status, he should not have any relationship with someone with Yun Luofeng's background. However, just as everyone was feeling anxious, Lin Ruobai spoke up, Junior brother Tianya, hurry up and get rid of these people. They're really an eyesore. Junior brother Tianya? Everyone's body stiffened on the spot, especially Tian Xin, who had mocked Yun Luofeng. His face turned pale, and he wished that he could faint right away. That would be better than facing such shocking news. Tian Yi was not as shocked as the others. He flew into a rage and said angrily, although this woman is quite talented, she's only a heavenly spirit warrior. Your powers far surpass hers. Coupled with your superb medical skills, what right does she have to be your master? After saying this, Tian Yi took a deep breath. His face became even more twisted. I know that you hate the Tian family. However, there's no need for you to use your entire life to anger the Tian family. It's not too late for you to back out now. As long as you return to the Tian family, we can join forces and restore the Tian family to its former glory. Tian Yi's expression gradually softened as he tried to persuade Tianya. He wanted to use his words to pull Tianya back to the Tian family. Unfortunately, Tianya completely ignored Tian Yi's words. He turned towards Lin Ruobai with a grin and said, Little Bai, I feel very comfortable hearing you call me junior brother. Don't worry, I may not have any other abilities, but I'm very good at being shameless. If that young girl doesn't accept me as her disciple, I'll keep pestering her until she agrees. Long Fei's eyes widened in surprise, his face full of disbelief. This was the man her master liked? He was actually so shameless. However, when the others heard these words, their feelings were completely different from Long Fei's. One needs to know how much effort the Tian family had put in to find Tianya, but Tianya was indifferent to them. Who would have thought that the arrogant Tianya would actually shamelessly want to take a young girl as his master? And that girl rejected him? If this matter were to spread out, it would definitely shock the entire continent. You're not allowed to call me little girl in the future. Lin Ruobai placed her hands on her hips, staring at him with her big bright eyes as she said, You must respectfully address me as senior sister. Otherwise, I will badmouth you in front of Master so that she will never accept you as her disciple for the rest of her life. All right, The little old man smiled in a flattering manner. Whatever you say. In order to have Yun Luofeng as his master, he had obviously thrown all caution to the wind. Chapter 535. The faces of everyone in the Tian family turned ugly. A few decades ago, Tianya went against the order of the Tian family and insisted on taking that woman of unknown origin as his wife. A few decades later, he also ignored the life and death of the Tian family and recognized Yun Luofeng as his master. Don't you all want to know why I, an old man, would rather give up my face and become Yun Luofeng's disciple? Tianya finally felt the eyes of everyone in the Tian family and looked at them coldly. That's because this girl saved a patient that even I couldn't do anything about. Her medical skills are much better than mine. I won't lose out if I recognize her as my master. Boom! Like a bolt from the blue, it smashed everyone in the Tian family. Everyone's heart trembled, and their pale faces were filled with shock. Yun Luofeng's medical skills were better than Tianya's? Oh my God, what kind of powerful enemy did the Tian family offend this time? Tian Xian's face was once again filled with despair. He took a few steps back, and with a bang, he sat down on the spikes on the ground. However, he didn't feel the slightest bit of pain. His trembling body revealed the impact he had received. Tianya sneered and turned his gaze to Tian Zhu, who was lying on the ground. He raised his eyes slightly. On the way here, I've already asked around. You are the one who captured my little master's maid, and that maid is your daughter. Originally, you had a way to join the big ship. This is a path that many people can't even dream of, but you gave it up yourself. Tianju rolled his eyes and fainted again. How could Qing Yin give him this chance? A ladle of salt water woke him up. When he woke up, he heard Qing Yan's mocking voice. You can continue to faint. I don't mind waking you up again. It's just that the way I wake you up is a bit rough. I hope you can bear it. With such a threat, how could Tianju dare to continue fainting? His heart was filled with regret. If he knew that Yun Luofeng had such strength, he wouldn't have treated Zhonglinger like this. Otherwise, he might have been able to use Zhonglinger to rise. The more Tianju thought about it, the more he regretted. Unfortunately, no matter how much he regretted it, it was useless. Suddenly Tian Yi sneered. His laughter was low and hoarse, like sharp claws rubbing against a wooden board. Tianya, do you really think that our Tian family can remain standing for so many years without any reason? Tian Yi's fear gradually disappeared from his elderly face as he stared at Tianya in disdain. Unfortunately, you're not the master of the Tian family. There are some things that you have no right to know. Tianya narrowed his eyes as a cold gleam flashed across his eyes. What do you mean by that? What do you mean? Ha ha ha. Tian Yi laughed maniacally. His old face was terrifyingly twisted and his eyes were bloodshot. Tianya, Yun Luofeng, if I die here today, all of you will be buried with me. As the spirit fire burned, Tian Yi felt his soul becoming increasingly weak as if it would disappear at any time. However, he no longer looked as terrified as he had in the past. As long as he thought about how these people would be buried with him, his heart was filled with excitement. Tian Yi took out a dagger from somewhere and cut his finger, allowing the blood to drip onto the ground. Then, his deep voice rang out slowly under the afternoon sky. Chapter 536. The Tian family's clan head, Tian Yi, sincerely requests for the elders to come and assist us. Ancestral elder? Everyone from the Tian family was stunned and looked at Tian Yi in confusion. Obviously, they didn't know what he was talking about. After all, there are some things that only the clan head has the qualification to touch. Even the young clan head, Tian Xian, didn't have the qualification. Where did this little brat come from? How dare you cause trouble in my Tian family? Boom! A loud roar came from the sky and went straight into one's soul. It was as if a heavy hammer had struck one's soul, causing it to tremble. Those with weaker strength spurted out a mouthful of blood as their faces turned pale. Tianya's face suddenly became extremely serious. His cold gaze was directed at the sky. At that moment, his chest was undulating and his aura became colder. In the sky, several old men stood with their hands behind their back, looking down at the crowd below with arrogance. However, these old men's bodies were very transparent as they swayed with the wind. "It's you guys!" Tianya's body was filled with anger as he clenched his fists tightly. "I never expected the Tian family to have a secret technique that could allow your soul to be preserved. Plus, you can still fight." "No." Just as Tianya's voice fell, Yin Luofeng, who was originally silent, had already walked to his side. At this moment, the young lady's eyes were solemn. If I didn't guess incorrectly, the Tian family did use some secret technique to allow their soul to remain. However, they can only come out once. In other words, the Tian family can only borrow the power of those who have passed away once. This is also the reason why they didn't use so many strong espers and still needed to think of a way to let you return to the Tian family. Yin Luofeng's lips curled up as he continued. Thus, only when the Tian family is in danger will the Tian family's clan head summon these people out. Plus, once they leave the place where their soul is preserved for a certain period of time, their soul will scatter. In other words, these people gave up the chance to reincarnate and chose to stay in the Tian family in order to save the Tian family when the Tian family is in danger of being exterminated. One couldn't deny that Yin Luofeng admired the efforts of these strong espers. Because there were so many strong espers who used this method to stay, the Tian family was able to stand tall for so many years. "Little master, how do you know so clearly?" Tianya looked at Yin Luofeng in astonishment. Hearing how Tianya addressed him, Yin Luofeng raised his eyebrows slightly. "You're still calling me the same as before. I really can't afford to be called Little Master." This old man was already so old. How could she not feel awkward being called Little Master by an old man in his 60s? Tianya shamelessly said, "Fine, then I'll still call you Yin Girl. However, I'll definitely pester you until you agree to teach me medicine. However, first tell me, how do you know so much?" Yin Luofeng blinked and smiled meaningfully. I guessed. She couldn't possibly tell Tianya that she had little MO, which was why there were so many things in the world that she didn't know. Guessed? The corners of Tianya's lips twitched. He glanced at Tianyi's ashen face and knew that Yin Luofeng had guessed correctly. These strong espers of the Tian family could only come out once. After a certain period of time, their souls would scatter. "Tianya." In the sky, the old man in the navy blue robe coldly looked down at Tianya. "You traitor of the Tian family, you actually have the face to come back." Chapter 537. Why don't I have the face to come back? Tianya sneered. "Don't forget, all these years it was your Tian family that begged me to come back. Now that I'm back, you treat me with such an attitude?" "Oomph." The green-robed old man snorted and said expressionlessly, "Asking you to come back to the Tian family is because your brother Tian pitied you for being alone. It wasn't our decision. Since you left so decisively that year, you shouldn't have stepped into Heavenly Mountain again." Back then, once he mentioned this word, Tianya's eyes became sharper. "You still have the face to mention what happened back then? If it wasn't for you old things, how could Fu Sheng abandon me? At first, I was worried that I wouldn't be able to take revenge on you guys. Never did I expect that. You guys are actually still here." The green-robed old man smiled arrogantly. "How can a grain of rice like you compete with the sun and the moon?" "Tianya, no matter how outstanding you are now, in our eyes, you're still that grain of rice from a few decades ago." This old man compared Tianya and the others to grains of rice, while the Tian family was the huge sun and moon. As a grain of rice, how could it compete with the sun and moon? Tianya became increasingly furious in his heart. His slightly narrowed eyes revealed a cold glint. However, he also knew that these few ancestral elders were different from the other members of the Tian family. It was impossible for him to deal with so many people by himself. One needs to know that a few decades ago, these old fellows had already reached the celestial spirit realm. Now that so many years had passed, their strength had become even stronger. And the reason why the Tian family declined previously was related to the death of these old fellows. However, He never expected that these people would use such a method to protect the Tian family. Was it really worth it for their souls to be destroyed? Little Yun, bring your subordinates and Little Bai and leave first. Tianya's eyes were even colder. Leave these fellows to me. Yin Luofeng turned his head and looked at Tianya. You alone can deal with so many people. Even if I can't, I can still delay them for a moment. Once you guys leave Heavenly Mountain, I'll go chase after them. Tianya took a deep breath. His face had never been this serious before. If it was in the past, when he saw these enemies, he would definitely not care about his life and fight them to the death. But now, he had people to consider. Only when Yin Luofeng was safe could he go all out. Otherwise, if Yin Luofeng was here, he would definitely accidentally injure her. Tianya, you should know my background. Yin Luofeng raised his eyebrows, his gaze turning towards Tianya. I was born into a general's family, and to a general on the battlefield, we will never abandon our comrades. Tianya was stunned for a moment before he helplessly smiled bitterly. Lass, this is not a battlefield. For me, any place where there is a battle is a battlefield. If I abandon my teammates because of fear, then my old man will definitely give me a good scolding. Yun Luofeng raised the corner of her lips. Her brows were filled with arrogance and defiance. She was like a wild horse that was hard to tame and would not listen to anyone's orders. Tianya, do you trust me? Just as Tianya was pondering over his words, Yin Luofeng suddenly said this. Immediately, Tianya's gaze landed on the young girl. When he saw the confidence on her face, his heart gradually calmed down. Perhaps this young lady possessed a kind of magical power that caused others to involuntarily trust her. Lass, say it. What do you want me to do? Tianya helplessly shook his head and asked. Chapter 538. Yin Luofeng smiled. If they hadn't died, perhaps I wouldn't have been able to do anything. Unfortunately, they've appeared in the form of souls, and there are many ways to deal with souls. Furthermore, souls are very precious, especially the souls of powerhouses. They can even become nourishment for milk tea. Squeak, squeak. Milk tea seemed to have sensed Yin Luofeng's inner thoughts and called out twice. Her eyes stared unblinkingly at the souls in the sky, and she almost drooled. As a gold-seeking mouse, Milk tea not only fed on spiritual medicine, but also used the souls of powerhouses to increase her strength. Unfortunately, the souls of powerhouses were as rare as spiritual medicine. That was why there weren't many powerful gold-seeking mice in the world. Yin Luofeng comforted Milk tea and smiled. Don't worry, those souls will belong to you in a while. It'll be enough for you to digest for a long time. In the sky, a few elders heard Yin Luofeng's words, and their faces sank. They said coldly, Little girl, don't be too arrogant. Otherwise, you won't have a good ending. Yin Luofeng didn't seem to hear these people's warnings. Her fingers gently stroked Milk tea's little head, and the corners of her lips curled into an evil smile. When the time comes, do you plan on eating them raw, or do you want me to grill them for you? I wonder how roasted souls taste like. You. The elder in green robes flew into a rage. Little girl, you really refuse to mend your ways. You're exactly the same as this traitor of the Tian family. In a while, I'll send you both to hell to accompany each other. Tian Fu, this little girl, is obviously delaying us on purpose. She already guessed that we won't be able to show ourselves for long. So, let's not waste time with her and start fighting. Another elder in gray robes glanced at Yin Luofeng and then at Tian Fu, who was dressed in green robes. He frowned as he spoke. Tian Fu took a deep breath. You're right. These two fellows are delaying us on purpose. I fell into their trap because I was too angry. If that's the case, then let's kill these people now and end this quickly. Swoosh. As soon as he finished speaking, Tian Fu, who was in the sky, charged towards Tianya. His aura was fierce, and he wanted to kill this traitor of the Tian family in one blow. Boom! Tianya fearlessly stepped forward to block Tian Fu's attack. Suddenly, a powerful force swept out from the two of them, destroying the surrounding trees and causing sand and dust to swirl into the air. Under Tian Fu's ferocious strength, Tianya took a few steps back and stopped a meter away from Tian Fu. He raised his head to look at Tian Fu, and his expression became even more solemn. Tianya, it's been so many years. I thought you were very powerful, but it turns out that you're only SOSO. Huh? Tian Fu madly laughed twice. If you could obediently listen to our Tian family and marry the woman we prepared for you, how could there be so many troubles? Therefore, you brought all of this upon yourself. Who asked you to disobey our Tian family's order? As he said those words, Tian Fu unleashed a barrage of attacks at Tianya. In the beginning, Tianya was still fleeing in a somewhat miserable manner. However, it didn't take long for him to adapt to Tian Fu's attacks and gradually adapt to them. When the others saw that Tian Fu was unable to restrain Tianya on his own, they also charged forward, intending to finish off this old man as quickly as possible. Everyone's eyes were focused on the two sides of the battle. However, no one noticed that a jade-carved baby had suddenly appeared out of thin air beside Yin Luofeng. Chapter 539. Master, after so many years, this is the only formation I've learned. I didn't expect it to come in handy here. Little Mo squatted down and placed the stones on the ground. Wiping the sweat off her forehead, she stood up. However, this formation of mine can only imprison souls. It can't destroy them. Inject your soul flame into the formation. Very soon, these souls will be destroyed. Yin Luofeng had mentioned earlier that if these experts from the Tian family were to come out with their physical bodies, she wouldn't be able to do anything. But who asked them to be a group of soul bodies? To a soul body, the soul flame is their nemesis. Although these people were strong, they no longer had the protection of their physical bodies. Thus, they couldn't do anything to the soul flame. If they had a physical body, with their strength, the soul flame would be destroyed before it could pass through their body. Bang! Tian Fu's palm landed on Tianya's body. In an instant, Tianya's body flew out and fell into the formation. Even though these elders of the Tian family had noticed little Mo, who was playing with the stones on the ground, since little Mo was just a kid, they didn't pay much attention to her. From their point of view, they had absolute strength. Yin Luofeng wouldn't be able to create any waves. Unfortunately, Tian Fu and the others didn't pay much attention to the people around Yin Luofeng. Thus, they didn't know that little Mo appeared out of thin air and thought that she had been on Tian Shan since the beginning. If he had noticed little Mo appearing out of thin air, perhaps he wouldn't have been so arrogant. Tianya, your strength alone can't deal with so many people from the Tian family. Tian Fu laughed out loud and walked into the formation. At the same time, the other elders also walked in and looked at Tianya mockingly. This is the price you have to pay for disobeying the orders of the Tian family. At this moment, everyone from the Tian family had a glimmer of hope in their eyes. So what if Tianya was strong? There were so many elders in the Tian family. Would they be afraid of him? Thinking of this, everyone couldn't help but say, "Elders, kill this traitor Tianya." As a member of the Tian family, not only did he not help the Tian family, but he also wanted to destroy our family with outsiders. That's right. He once fell in love with a woman of unknown origin. Now, he acknowledged a lowly person as his master. This is simply unforgivable. So what if Tianya acknowledged Yin Luofeng's strength? From their point of view, she was just the eldest daughter of the general's residence. How could her status be compared to the Tian family? Tianya crawled up from the ground. He clutched his injured chest and coldly said, "Whoever I want to marry has nothing to do with your Tian family. Whoever I want to acknowledge as my master also has nothing to do with it. Since I could escape from a pursuit of the Tian family in the past, I could do the same now." Hearing this, Tian Fu laughed mockingly. "A few decades ago, you left alone. Now, you're bringing so many burdens with you. I like to see what kind of strength you have to walk out of here." After saying that, killing intent surged out from Tian Fu's body, enveloping Tianya's body. "All right, it's about time. I don't intend to continue talking nonsense with you. I'll end your lives now." He raised his head arrogantly, looking down at Tianya from above. Then he raised his hand slightly, and a sharp long sword appeared in his hand. But the moment he took out his sword, there was a loud boom, and a dark green flame rose from the ground, instantly enveloping their bodies. Chapter 540. Gasp! The pain that pierced straight into their souls caused the ancestral elders and the others to wail mournfully. Their wails were like the howls of wild wolves. They were incomparably ferocious and filled with monstrous rage. "What on earth have you done?" Tian Fu's body trembled uncontrollably as he stared angrily at Yin Luofeng. In the midst of the flames, he felt as if his soul was being torn apart by countless hands. He could not even use his spiritual energy. The complacent faces of the members of the Tian family also stiffened because of this sudden change. Everyone did not understand what had happened, and their eyes were filled with astonishment. Ancestral elders. Tian Yi's voice was very weak. He looked at Tian Fu and the others who were also trapped in the flames and gritted his teeth. "Hurry and leave that place. Hurry." Leave? That's right. This soul fire was different from the one that Tian Yi had endured. The soul fire that Tian Yi had endured only burned around him. However, the soul fire here was burning in an area. As long as they left this area, they would be able to stay away from the soul fire. At the thought of this, Tian Fu hurriedly turned around and wanted to rush out of this place. However, at that moment, there was a loud thud. His head slammed into an invisible wall, and his body bounced back. "What's going on?" The other ancestral elders turned pale with fright and raised their hands to touch the air in front of them. There was clearly nothing in front of him, but when he touched it, he felt like he was touching an invisible wall. "No!" Tian Fu screamed crazily and slammed his head against the wall again. "I want to leave. Let me go." Unsurprisingly, his body bounced back once again and he landed on his butt. Tian Fu's eyes were filled with despair as he felt the pain of his soul being torn apart. Even now, he still did not understand what was happening. Tianya, who was also in the formation, was equally shocked. He looked at the crazed clan elders in a daze. He could not understand why these people had suddenly gone crazy. There was obviously only air in front of them. Why were these people circling around the air as if they had gone mad? Moreover, the dark green flames surrounding the ancestral elders seemed to have eyes of their own and did not harm him at all. "Tianya," Tian Fu gritted his teeth. "That woman has locked us in here. You can't leave either. Don't forget, we are trapped in the same place." Just as Tian Fu finished speaking, he abruptly realized that Tian Yi had already walked towards the invisible wall that had blocked his path. Then he lifted one leg and carefully extended it in front of him. A miracle had happened. Tian Yi's foot successfully pierced through the invisible wall. Then his entire body followed suit. Tian Fu went completely crazy and said angrily, "This is impossible. How can you get out? I don't believe it. I'm definitely not new." With that, he stood up again and rammed his head into the wall. Just like before, the invisible wall appeared again and bounced him away. Especially at a time like this, Tianya, this bastard, actually walked into the array from outside. Without waiting for Tian Fu to react, he continued to walk out of the array. As he moved forward and backward, he mocked Tian Fu and the others. "I came in, I came out. I came in, I came out. Envious? Jealous? Come out and kill me if you have the guts. What's the point of hiding in here?" Chapter 541. Tian Fu nearly spat out a mouthful of blood when he saw this old man's shameless face. He pointed angrily at Tianya and said hatefully, "If you have the ability, stand here and don't move." Hearing this, Tianya indeed stopped and chuckled. "I'll stand here and not move. Come and hit me if you have the guts." "You." Tian Fu was so angry that his eyes were spitting fire. He had clearly told Tianya to stay in the formation and not move, but this fellow dared to purposely twist his words and stand an inch away from the invisible wall. Tian Fu used all his strength to quell the anger in his heart and said coldly, "Tianya, after so many years, you still haven't changed this shameless habit of yours. Moreover, you clearly know that I can't leave this place. How can I hit you? Stop finding excuses. You're clearly a coward who doesn't dare to come out." What's the point of hiding in here like a turtle? In terms of the ability to make false accusations, no one could compare to this old man, Tianya. It was obvious that Tian Fu was trapped in the formation and had to endure the burning of the fire of the soul. Now, he was making false accusations and saying that Tian Fu had become a turtle because he was timid. Tian Fu was so enraged that smoke was rising from the top of his head. He clenched his fist tightly. With a bang, his fist smashed heavily towards Tianya's chest. However, before his fist could touch Tianya, it was blocked by an invisible wall, and his body was violently sent flying. Seeing this, Tianya became even more complacent. His old face was filled with a smile that deserved a spanking. Tian Fu, how about this old man's new skill of hitting a cow through the air? Hit a cow through the air? Hit your sister's cow. Tian Fu's entire body trembled uncontrollably. He pointed at Tianya as his lips trembled, but he could not speak. Tianya was probably the only person who could reach this level of shamelessness. He had clearly been bounced back by the invisible wall, but this old man actually took the credit for himself? Did he still have any shame? Tianya, you shameless scum. After a long while, Tian Fu forcefully squeezed out these few words. Tianya laughed mockingly. You're just a loser. What right do you have to humiliate this old man? Bullsh asterisk T. If there wasn't an invisible wall blocking this old man would have torn you into 1,000 pieces long ago. Tian Fu couldn't help but curse out loud. He felt as if his soul was burning in flames, as if it would soon be extinguished. After saying that, he turned to Yun Luofeng. Just who are you? If he was not wrong, this formation was related to Yun Luofeng, because he hadn't forgotten that just now, the little boy beside Yun Luofeng had been writing and drawing on the ground, and then a formation had appeared in this place. Instantly, everyone's gaze was on Yun Luofeng. The people of the Tian clan were gritting their teeth in hatred. If it weren't for their fear of Yun Luofeng's strength, they would have killed this woman a long time ago. If not for her, the Tian family wouldn't have fallen to such a degree. Yun Luofeng caressed the little hamster in his sleeve and said without raising his eyebrows, You don't have the right to know who I am. Her words were arrogant and haughty, and there was a kind of arrogance in them, as if she did not put the world in her eyes. Indeed, just based on the fact that she had caused the Tian family's ancestral elder to be in such a sorry state, it had already proved that she had the right to be arrogant. Tian Fu's entire person became dispirited. It was as if he had never thought that the Tian clan would fall in the hands of a young girl. But this young girl was only 15 years old. Chapter 542. He chuckled and closed his eyes. For the Tian family, I gave up everything. I never expected that I would end up like this. In the future, I will no longer be able to control the Tian family. Tian Fu's body became weaker and weaker. His voice was also weak. The other ancestral elders could no longer withstand the power of the soul flame and gradually became transparent. No. Seeing that Tian Fu was about to give up on the Tian family, Tian anxiously shouted, Ancestral elders, you can't give up on the Tian family. You are so strong. How could the array that Yun Luofeng set up trap you? I know that you must have other abilities. If you give up, the Tian family will really be finished. Tian Fu sighed. If we were still alive, be it this array or the flame, they would not be able to hurt us. Unfortunately, we are only souls now. What can we do? His voice was helpless. Even if he wanted to help the Tian family now, he did not have the strength to do so. Tian opened his mouth and wanted to continue persuading him. However, his soul had already been consumed by the soul flame. He could only wait for Tianya's fate. Tian Fu turned his head to look at Tianya. I hope that you can consider the fact that the Tian family brought you up and let the Tian family live. Even at the very end, he still wanted to make a final struggle. Now, he could only make use of the feelings that Tianya had for the Tian family when he was young. However, facing his pleading voice, Tianya only smiled coldly. My feelings for the Tian family had already been consumed back then. Of course, I also have to thank your Tian family. If not for your pursuit of me, I would not have been able to grow in such a short period of time. Tian Fu's body trembled, and he asked weakly, Tianya, are you really so heartless? If you really annihilate the Tian family, how will the world view you? At this moment, Tian Fu had forgotten who was the one who shouted to kill Tianya in the first place. If not for Yun Luofeng, perhaps Tian, you would have been buried in the massacre of these people. But now, he was still righteously accusing Tianya of being heartless. Huh? Tianya laughed. So what if the world says that I am heartless? When I, world's edge, do things, I only seek a clear conscience. Why is it that your Tian family can kill me, but I can't destroy your Tian family? Now, other than my surname is Tian, everything else has nothing to do with your Tian family. What did the words of the secular world and the cold eyes of the people have to do with him? Living in this world, one should settle debts of gratitude and enmity, kill those who deserve to be killed, and annihilate clans that deserve to be annihilated. Seeing that Tian you could not be persuaded, Tian Fu turned to Yin Luofeng. Little girl, even if my Tian family was in the wrong first, isn't your method of revenge a little too ruthless? The girl finally raised her head slowly. Under the bright sunlight, her eyebrows glowed with a moving radiance. From now on, the Tian family no longer exists. A simple sentence sentenced the Tian family to death. From now on, the Tian family will no longer exist. As the few of them fought against each other, Tian Yi's soul had already become so weak that it would scatter with the wind. At the last moment, he suddenly laughed maniacally. His laughter was ferocious and resounded through the clouds. Yin Luofeng, Tianya, you'll never be able to exterminate my Tian family, because my grandson Tian Yu has gone to a place you can't find. Ha ha! He will definitely take revenge for us. At this moment, Tian Yi was rejoicing in his heart. Luckily, Tian Yu was no longer in the Tian family. Otherwise, no one would be able to help him take revenge. Chapter 543. Tian Yu? At the mention of this name, Yin Luofeng's eyes sank, and he turned to look at Tianya. Can you use your forces to find Tian Yu? Little girl, leave this matter to me. If we don't remove the roots, there will be trouble in the future. Furthermore, Tian Yu's character is not as impetuous as his grandfather and father. He is very profound. If we let him stay, he will definitely become a huge problem. Tian Yu was silent for a moment before he replied seriously. At the moment before Tian Yi's soul was destroyed, he heard the conversation between the two of them, and the corners of his lips curled up into a sarcastic smile. These two people would definitely not be able to find the place where Tian Yu was headed. When that time comes, he would definitely avenge the entire Tian family when he returns. That way, he would die without any regrets. Bang! The spirit flame dissipated into the air, and Tian Yi's body fell heavily to the ground. Even in death, his face still carried a mocking smile, and his round eyes were filled with pride. It was as if he had already firmly believed that Yin Luofeng and Tian Yu would soon fall from this world. At the same time, Tian Fu and the others could not withstand the power of the spirit flame, and their souls turned from transparent to nothingness. In the end, a gentle breeze blew past, and they dissipated into the air like green smoke. The rest of the Tian family members revealed looks of horror, and they could not help but retreat. Tian Xian, in particular, was so frightened that he could not speak. His body trembled uncontrollably in the gentle breeze. Tian Yu did not look at these people anymore, and turned his gaze towards Yin Luofeng. Little girl Yin, leave these people to me. Also, I will inform all the forces under my control to search for Tian Yu's whereabouts. However, there's one thing I need your help with. What is it? Yin Luofeng raised an eyebrow and asked. Tian Yu fell silent for a moment. I brought Xiao Bai away this time for the sake of a medicinal herb. That medicinal herb grows on the other side of the Yellow Springs and is extremely difficult to find. Only with Xiao Bai's bloodline as a guide can I find that medicinal herb. I hope that you can bring me to retrieve this medicinal herb. All right. Yin Luofeng didn't think too much before agreeing. I wonder what medicinal ingredient you want me to find? That stalk of medicinal herb is known as the soul seed. After taking it, it can increase the strength of one's soul. I can see that you possess a soul attack cultivation technique, so this medicinal herb will be a rare tonic for you. It's just that. The little old man rubbed his palms together and said with a chuckle, after you obtain the soul seed, just give me half of it. That's not a problem. However, first tell me, how do I get to the Yellow Springs? Yin Luofeng smiled as he looked at the old man. Don't tell me I have to commit suicide first? Hearing this, the little old man was stunned for a moment. Then, he could not help but laugh out loud. Little girl, the Yellow Springs is a place. Because there are no rules and regulations in that place, they believe in the rule of the fist. Moreover, there are frequent fights between forces, and the number of deaths every day is in the tens of thousands. Thus, it is called the Yellow Springs. Because the previous owner of this body had not gone to learn about the mainland, it was normal that Yin Luofeng did not know about these things. However, if it had been anyone else, if they had committed such a low-level mistake, they would have been so ashamed that they would have found a hole to crawl into. Yin Luofeng was different. Her expression was as calm as a normal person's, as if nothing had happened. I understand. Wait for my news at the Yin family home. Xiaobai, let's go. Lin Raobai blinked her eyes. Master, I wanted to ask you just now, where did you abduct this little boy from? He looks just too adorable. Chapter 544. This time, without waiting for Yin Luofeng to explain, Qing Yan's voice rang out from the side. He is the son of my lady. Tianya and Lin Raobai were both dumbfounded at the same time. Yin Luofeng has a son? And this son is so old? Heavens! This is unbelievable. Tianya looked at Yin Luofeng with jealousy. I'm already half a foot into the grave, and I don't even have a wife. You're only 15, and you already have a son this old. Lin Ruabai's eyes lit up, and she pinched Xiao Mo's cheeks. Her baby face lit up with a bright smile. Little brother, be good and call me big sister. Xiao Mo's face immediately darkened. He was a man who had lived for who knew how many years, yet he was being called little brother by a little girl who still smelled of her mother's milk. And she was even teasing him? Xiao Mo slapped Lin Ruabai's hand away and hid behind Yin Luofeng, his hands clutching onto the corner of her clothes. My face can only be touched by master. Only mother. He had originally wanted Lin Ruabai to give up on ravaging him. Who knew that when she saw his arrogant little face, the light in Lin Ruabai's eyes became even more intense. Master, I want to marry him. Like a bolt of lightning, little Mo was stunned on the spot. He stared at Lin Ruabai in astonishment and was so shocked that he couldn't even speak. How could there be such a shameless woman in this world? She actually said that she wanted to marry a stranger she had just met? And as a woman, shouldn't she say marry? Why did it become Mary? But Master will never agree. Xiao Mo's heart calmed down at the thought of this. He proudly raised his cute little face and looked at Lin Ruabai with disdain. Permission granted. Just as Xiao Mo was feeling extremely pleased with himself, the young girl slowly uttered these two words. At that moment, Xiao Mo's heart broke. 2 lines of crystal-clear tears flowed down his fair little face, and his bright eyes were filled with disbelief. He could not believe that Master would buy him just like that. Miss Qing Yin could not bear to see this. Little young Master is only 5 years old. Shouldn't we wait for him to grow up before deciding? Mother, she's right. Xiao Mo immediately returned to her senses. She tightly tugged on the corner of Yin Luofeng's clothes and said aggrievedly, I'm only 5 years old. I'm still a child. The age gap between us is too big. We're not worthy. Yin Luofeng raised his eyebrows slightly. Being a child bride is not bad. For true love, age is not a problem. No, you can't be so cruel. You can't push me to this woman. Little Mo almost cried. Her chastity was sold by her master, just like that. Furthermore, he looked like a 5-year-old for hundreds of years. It was impossible for him to grow up, so how could he marry a wife? Xiao Mo. Yin Luofeng moved closer to Xiao Mo's ear as the corners of his lips curled into an evil smile. You've tricked me once, so I'll return the favor. So, from today onwards, you are Xiao Bai's wife. No! Xiao Mo anxiously hugged Yin Luofeng's thigh with both hands and refused to let go. You can't just leave me like this. Furthermore, I'm a man, and she's a woman. Why am I his wife? Aren't you getting it backwards? Yin Luo Feng stroked her chin and blinked, because Xiaobai said that he wants to marry you. Naturally, you'll be his wife, and she'll be his husband. Chapter 545. Little Mo still wanted to protest, but at that moment, a small hand pulled her down from behind and lifted her into the air. Stupid woman, let go of me. Feeling the aura behind her, little Mo trembled in anger and struggled in Lin Ruobai's hand. Master has already given you to me. Lin Ruobai lifted her chin slightly, the smile on her cute little face becoming even more radiant. So from now on, you are my wife. Little Mo's entire body became dispirited as she stared at Yin Luo Feng with a wronged expression. Her expression was like that of an abandoned puppy, so pitiful that the people around her couldn't help but feel pity for her. Tianya wanted to bang his head against the wall even more when he saw this scene. His eyes were full of resentment as he said indignantly, "This world is too unfair. Even a 5-year-old child is already engaged. On the contrary, I'm still a virgin." Yin Luo Feng glanced at him. "With your status in the mainland, you will definitely have many followers. Isn't it easy for you to lose your virginity?" "I won't." Tianya raised his chin and said proudly, "I want to preserve my virginity for my Fu Sheng until I find her." To him, being a virgin was something to be proud of. After all, he was protecting his body and mind for the sake of the woman he loved. In the entire world, how many men would not forget their original intentions? It's getting late. Little Bai, we should leave. Long Fei, bring Zhong Ling, and Qing Yin to the Yun family residence and wait for me. Yin Luo Feng smiled evilly as he glanced at Lin Ruobai and little Mo. As for little Mo, I'll leave her to you for the rest of the journey. Yes, master. Lin Ruobai straightened his back and responded respectfully. Little Mo, who was in her hands, looked as if the end of the world had arrived. His face was filled with despair. He could already imagine his miserable life in the future. As he watched Yin Luo Feng and the others leave, the smile on Tian Ya's face gradually disappeared. He sighed softly and muttered to himself, "I don't know if it's right or wrong to let the Yun girl go to the Yellow Springs. However, with her intellect and talent, she will definitely be able to make a name for herself there. This would also be a form of training for her." The Yellow Springs was located to the north of the mainland. Because this place was rich in extremely precious medicinal herbs, countless forces had taken root here. On top of that, the resources were limited. Hence, large-scale battles often took place. This was the survival of the fittest. Weaklings could only become stepping stones for others. On the tree-lined mountain path, Yin Luo Feng held Lin Ruobai and Little Mo's hands as they walked toward the end of the path. As long as one walked past this mountain path, they would be in Yellow Spring City. But just as she was about to reach the end, the sunlight in front of her was suddenly blocked. A huge shadow appeared in front of her, and she could faintly smell the stench of sweat. "Yo, you don't look familiar. You don't look like people from our Yellow Spring City. Do you know the rules of our Yellow Spring City? Whenever a stranger enters the Netherworld City, the women will be played with by us brothers, and the men will have to crawl between our legs. I wonder if you want to start now?" "Haha." A rough voice came from above Yin Luofeng's head. She raised her head slightly, and her arrogant eyes gradually fell on the two people in front of her. "I wonder if there are any other paths?" Chapter 546. The young girl's voice was very calm, but it easily stirred the two brothers' hearts. Although they had seen a lot of women over the years, they had never seen such a peerless woman like her before. If they could ride on top of her, it would definitely be very pleasurable. There's a second option, of course. The bearded man licked the corner of his lips. That is to defeat the two of us. However, with just the three of you, do you think you're matched for the two of us? The two girls were very young, but the young girl in white was definitely no older than 15. As for the little boy, there was no need to even think about it. What kind of storm could a 5-year-old do? "Oh." Yin Luo Feng gently raised her brows and said with a faint smile, "Then I choose the second option." The two brothers were stunned for a moment, but before they could return to their senses, the young girl's body suddenly passed by them. The moment her fine black hair fluttered in the wind, a faint fragrance wafted over. Then, hot blood gushed out of their arms like a fountain. It was a spectacular sight. Ah! The bearded man screamed and clutched his bleeding arm tightly. His face was deathly pale. His brother was not much better off. His delicate face was devoid of color as blood continuously flowed down his arm. Soon, it converged into a river on the ground. "Who are you?" He gritted his teeth and asked coldly. Yin Luofeng raised her brows and smiled. "Someone who will turn Yellow Spring City upside down." Her words were very arrogant. What she meant was that because of her arrival, Yellow Spring City would undergo earth-shattering changes. "You?" The delicate man's expression changed. After a long while, he choked out a few words. "You're too arrogant." Compared to the wretched bearded man, this man was more composed. However, his pale face clearly showed his disdain. Yellow Spring City is a place of great power. There are countless experts. You alone do not have the ability to turn Yellow Spring City upside down for you. Little brother, why are we wasting our breath on this woman? She only managed to injure us with a sneak attack. The bearded man gritted his teeth. "Let's attack together and take this woman down. 'Tis TSK." Just as the bearded man finished speaking, mocking laughter suddenly sounded from the side. Lin Ruobai raised his head proudly, his eyes shining with confidence. "You still want to capture my master? To deal with people like you, my master doesn't even need to do anything. I can deal with them on her behalf." Arrogant. The bearded man sneered and quickly rushed towards Lin Ruobai. Suddenly, a large blade appeared in his hand, and he swung it down, stirring up a hurricane around him. Bang! The broadsword fell to the ground, and dust flew everywhere. But before the bearded man could heave a sigh of relief, his whole body stiffened. Amidst the flying dust, Lin Ruobai's hand tightly grasped the blade of the burly man. Her sleeves fluttered in the light wind, revealing a fair and tender arm. A trace of blood flowed down her little hand, but she didn't notice it at all. Her smile was like a brilliant flower, extremely gorgeous. "I've already said that I don't need my master to deal with people like you. I alone am enough." To Lin Ruobai, asking Yin Luofeng to deal with these people was like dirtying her hands. As her disciple, she had to deal with these small problems for her master. Furthermore, these people had dared to humiliate her master. Just this alone was enough to make her not forgive them. Chapter 547. The stubbled man's gaze slowly shifted to Xiao Bai's small hand that was tightly gripping the blade. A trace of fear appeared in his eyes. He swallowed hard and raised his head to look at the adorable girl in front of him. The stubbled man had just finished speaking when Lin Ruobai's foot flew up and landed a vicious kick on his chest, sending him flying. "Master, I finally understand why you like to kick people." Lin Ruobai's smile was brighter than the sun. "It turns out that it feels so good to kick people. No, I'm already addicted to this feeling. I need to kick a few more times." With that, Lin Ruobai leaped up and rushed in front of the stubbled man. What followed next was a one-sided trampling. Little Imo stared blankly at the incomparably ferocious Lin Ruobai and swallowed in horror. He subconsciously shrank his body behind Yin Luofeng and said weakly, "Master, I want to return to the divine grimoire space." During this period of time, he would return to the divine grimoire space at night and appear during the day. Thus, he did not arouse Lin Ruobai's suspicions. Now, to prevent himself from being tortured by this cruel woman, he swore that he would never step out of the divine grimoire space. Yin Luofeng glanced at him. "Didn't you say that you didn't want to return to the divine grimoire space?" "I don't care. I'll return to the divine grimoire space now. Before this woman leaves, I won't appear." Little Imo glared at Lin Ruobai fiercely. Then, while Yin Luofeng was not paying attention, he quickly flashed into the divine grimoire space. He planned to disappear for a period of time. It would be best if Lin Ruobai forgot about his existence. Unfortunately, he had underestimated Lin Ruobai's courage. Since Lin Ruabai had already decided to marry him, how could she forget about him? Heroine, spare me. I had eyes but failed to recognize you. Please spare me? Just as Yin Luofeng was deep in thought, the stubbled man's trembling voice came from the front. Yin Luofeng looked over and immediately saw that the fierce-looking man had already been stepped under Lin Ruabai's foot. Her slightly raised eyebrows were full of arrogance as she glanced disdainfully at the bruised man under her foot. How did you humiliate my master just now? Lin Ruabai smiled coldly. Do you want to let go just like that? However, I am willing to give you a chance. If you cut off your tongue, I'll spare your dog life. The bearded man's expression suddenly changed. Stupid girl, don't push your luck, you. Bang! Before he could finish speaking, Lin Ruabai's foot suddenly landed on his face, blocking his voice. He could only let out a soft whimper. Xiao Bai, Yin Luofeng stopped Lin Ruabai's actions and slowly walked towards the bearded man. Take me to see your boss. Perhaps because of Yin Luofeng's words, Lin Ruabai moved his foot away, giving the big man a chance to speak. There was an obvious shoe print on his face, and his mouth was red and swollen. It was obvious how much force Lin Ruabai had used. Our boss isn't someone you can meet just because you want to. After all, even if he begged for mercy, these people would not let him go. Therefore, the bearded man's voice became firm again. However, the fear in his eyes did not decrease. Instead, it increased. Really, Yin Luofeng's lips curved into an evil smile. Her smile was like that of a demon from hell, as if it could make you fall into an endless hell. Chapter 548. Xiao Bai, the girl paused, then continued. This man is too obscene. As a punishment, make him a eunuch. Hearing this, the bearded man's face turned pale. He hurriedly got up from the ground and retreated. Don't come over, or else what? The girl narrowed her eyes and smiled evilly. Are you going to shout for help? Don't worry. Even if you shout until your throat breaks, no one will come to save you. Looking at the evil smile on Yin Luofeng's face and Lin Ruabai, who was walking over eagerly, the bearded man finally felt panic. As a man, if he really became a eunuch, how would he have the face to continue living? We'll bring you to see the boss. At this moment, the handsome man suddenly spoke. Brother, the bearded man's expression suddenly changed. If the boss finds out that we brought a stranger to see him, he'll definitely be furious. There's nothing we can do even if we don't agree. The handsome man shook his head. Even if we don't agree, she'll think of other ways to see the boss. If that's the case, why don't we bring him? If the boss blames us, I'll take responsibility. The bearded man didn't say anything else, but his clenched fists showed the anger in his heart. Finally, he took a deep breath, his red and swollen cheeks looking somewhat hideous. Our boss isn't someone you can provoke. Since you want to die so badly, I'll fulfill your wish. After saying this, he glared at Yin Luofeng, then turned and stepped through the gates of Yellow Spring City. In Yellow Spring City, various forces intersected. The force that Yin Luofeng and the others were going was the Big Dipper Gang, which was ranked 11th in Yellow Spring City. Even though it was ranked 11th, the Big Dipper Gang's strength was not to be underestimated. It was said that the Big Dipper Gang had already broken through to the Celestial Spirit stage, so one could imagine how powerful the top 10 forces were. At this moment, in the Sky Marshal Pavilion, not far from the Big Dipper Gang, an old man was sitting on a high seat, elegantly drinking tea. However, at this moment, a servant outside the door hurriedly walked in and respectfully cupped his fists. Master, a man who calls himself Tianyu, is here to visit. Tianyu? The old man was startled and frowned. What is he doing here? I have already said this before. I don't wish to have any contact with the Tian family. I didn't see anyone from the Tian family. The manservant carefully glanced at the impatient old man and said, Clan Head, young Master Tian, you also asked me to bring a message to Clan Head. He said, the Tian family has been exterminated. Pa! The old man's palm trembled, and the teacup fell from his hand, landing on the ground and shattering into pieces. Then he suddenly stood up and clenched his fist tightly. The veins on his forehead bulged. What did you say? The Tian family was exterminated? Quick, let Tianyu in. I want to know what happened. Since a few decades ago, when his daughter didn't listen to his advice and insisted on marrying someone from the Tian family, he had cut off all contact with his daughter. Even his grandson, Tianyu, was not liked by him. In fact, he hadn't even asked about them for many years. However, he never expected that in the end, the Tian family would be annihilated. The old man's body went limp, and he fell on the chair. He was in so much pain that he couldn't help but grip the corner of his clothes tightly. Chapter 549. Not long after, a handsome young man slowly walked out from the great hall. The afterglow of the setting sun shone on the man's body, causing his silhouette to lengthen. Perhaps it was because he had heard the grievous news of the Tian family, but Tianyu's eyes were dark and bloodshot. Only when he saw the old man sitting in the great hall did his expression soften a little. His thin lips parted, and he slowly said, "Grandfather, now, you are the only relative I have left." Boom! Like a bolt from the blue, the old man was stunned. After a long while, he regained his senses and asked with a pale face, "You mean your mother, she's dead, and the entire Tian family has been destroyed?" Tianyu never thought that so many things would happen in the half a month that he had left the Tian family. When he heard the grievous news, he did not believe it. However, he did not dare to return to the Tian family, afraid that he would also be killed. Therefore, as he inquired about the truth of the matter, he went to Yellow Spring City to seek refuge with his grandfather. "Who is it?" The old man slammed the table in half with one hand. His wrinkled face gradually became ferocious. "Tell me, who killed your mother? I will make them pay 100-fold. Tianyu's eyes were filled with a complicated look, but it was more of a bone-piercing hatred. It was Yun Luofeng and Tianya. Thinking of that peerlessly beautiful girl, Tianyu's fists clenched tightly. His nails dug deep into his palms, causing faint traces of blood to appear. "What's the reason?" The old man regained his composure after his anger subsided. He asked with a cold expression. "Because Yun Luofeng's maidservant, Zhongling was the daughter of a branch family member of the Yun family. Yun Luofeng wanted to marry Zhongling to one of his guards, but Zhongling rejected him. In order to protect his daughter, that member of the Tian family secretly took Zhongling away to protect her. This angered Yun Luofeng. He joined forces with the traitor of the Tian family, Tianya, to kill his way into the Tian family and annihilated all my family members. Tianyu was in the Tian family's huge daivat, so how could he be clean? Therefore, he could easily come up with this kind of backstabbing lie. Plus, on that day, other than Yun Luofeng, there were only members of the Tian family. The world only knew that the Tian family was destroyed. No one knew why. Even if the people from the Sky Marshal Pavilion went to investigate, they would not be able to find anything. More importantly, in order to be safe, he had already used the portion of the Tian family's power that he had taken with him that day to fabricate a rumor, making Yun Luofeng an existence that was condemned by thousands of people. What a Yun Luofeng, what a world's edge. The old man was so angry that he laughed, and the killing intent in his eyes became even thicker. These two people not only forced an innocent girl to become a prostitute, but also forced a side branch of the royal family to marry her guard. He even did such a heinous thing. Tianyu, don't worry. Grandfather will avenge your mother. Let these people die without a burial ground. He only mentioned revenge for his mother and never mentioned the Tian family. Obviously, he still hasn't acknowledged the existence of the Tian family. However, as long as he could kill Yun Luofeng and Tianya, that was enough. Someone, bring young master to rest. The old man's expression was bone-chilling, but when he looked at Tianyu, he softened a bit. Tianyu, since the Tian family no longer exists, then from today onwards, you are a member of the Tang family. Later, you will change your name to Tang Tianyu. Yes, grandfather. Tang Tianyu lowered his head and said respectfully. Chapter 550. Good child. Tang ran side softly and patted Tang Tianyu's shoulder. It's been hard on you these days. Live well in the Tang family from now on. I won't mistreat you. This child was a good seedling. If he was properly nurtured, he would definitely thrive in Yellow Spring City in the future. It was a pity that he was still angry at his daughter and didn't like this grandson of his. That was why he didn't nurture him. Grandfather, I won't let you down. Tang Tianyu raised his head with a determined look. One day, he would kill Yun Luofeng and Tianya with his own hands, and he would replace the Sky Martial Pavilion in his grandfather's hands. After the servant brought Tang Tianyu away, the old man's face darkened, and he said coldly, Tang Ying, go and find out the truth behind the Tian family's destruction. Suddenly, a black figure landed in front of Tang Ran and asked in a low voice, Master, you don't believe young Master Tianyu's words? Tang Ying laughed coldly. Do you think I don't know what the Tian family is like? Go and find out the truth immediately. Unfortunately, as the saying goes, the devil rises 10. Before he could tell the lie, Tang Tianyu had already spread the rumor across the mainland. Rumors would never disappear, no matter how hard they tried. Therefore, the truth that Tang Ying found out would be exactly the same as Tang Tianyu's. Who asked there to be no extra people on the mountain that day? And the reason why they knew that Yin Luofeng and Tianya killed the Tian family members was because they were the only ones who entered the highest level of Sky Mountain that day. As long as someone remembered their appearance and drew it on paper and spread it, someone would recognize them. Yun Luofeng was an exception. Too many people had seen it before. As for Tianya, he had treated many patients. Anyone who had been treated by him would remember his appearance. Master, Tang Ying paused, then continued. What should we do with Yun Luofeng and Tianya? Hearing this, a cold, murderous intent flashed across Tang Rant's eyes. Regardless of whether Tianyu is telling the truth or not, these two deserve to die. Immediately send an order to find their whereabouts. Once you find them, kill them without mercy. Yes, Tang Ying cupped his fists. After he responded, his figure disappeared without a trace like a gust of wind. Tang Ran probably never imagined that the enemy who destroyed the Tian family was now in Huangquan City. If he went outside to look for Yun Luofeng, it would be impossible to find him. At this time, outside the Big Dipper Gang's residence, the guard couldn't help but whistle when he saw the bearded man walk in with two young girls. Pang Fei, Pang Qingran, you two brothers are quite lucky to have obtained such exquisite beauties this time. The corner of Pang Fei's mouth twitched when he heard the banter from his gang members. His face was filled with embarrassment. All right, Pang Fei, what happened to your face? Who beat you up like this? This. Pang Fei laughed awkwardly. I accidentally fell. This has nothing to do with you guys. I'm going to look for boss. The guard's gaze was a little suspicious. How could he fall to such a state? He must have been beaten up by someone, but was too embarrassed to say it out loud. While he was hesitating, the Pang brothers had already brought Yun Luofeng and Tianya into the gang. Our boss should be in closed-door cultivation. I'll bring you to see him now. Pang Qingran glanced at Yun Luofeng and said in a low voice. Chapter 551. A middle-aged man sat upright on a mat in a quiet secret room, resting with his eyes closed. Faint spiritual energy swirled around his body, then was absorbed into his body through the opening and closing of his pores. However, as soon as the spiritual energy entered his body, his expression changed drastically, as if thousands of ants were burrowing into his body. It's still no good. Large droplets of sweat rolled down his face. He slowly opened his eyes and smashed his fists fiercely on the ground as he said hatefully, Damn it, am I never going to be able to absorb spiritual energy for the rest of my life? I can only remain as a low-level celestial spirit warrior? Thump, thump, thump. 3 knocks rang out from outside the secret room, causing the middle-aged man to immediately return to his senses. He gradually recovered his composure and said coldly, Come in. No matter what, he could not let the fact that he could not cultivate spread. Otherwise, not only would it cause panic among the gang members, he would not even be able to keep his position as the 11th disciple. However, it had been almost 6 years since he broke through to the celestial spirit warrior. If he still did not break through, it would definitely raise suspicion. When that time comes, everyone would know that he could not cultivate. Creak. The door to the secret room was pushed open, and Pang Fei and his brother walked in first. However, the middle-aged man immediately saw two young girls following closely behind them. The one in front of the two young girls was definitely the devastatingly beautiful young girl in white. She had a lazy smile on her face, and her aura was confident and ostentatious. Pang Fei, Pang Qingran. The middle-aged man's expression changed drastically, and he scolded coldly. Who allowed you to bring outsiders into the gang? And why did you bring them to me? Pang Fei was so frightened that he did not dare to speak when he saw his boss's anger. His entire body trembled. On the other hand, Pang Qingran glanced at her brother and walked up to the middle-aged man. She said respectfully, "Boss, these two girls said that they wanted to see you, so I boldly brought them here. Please forgive me, boss." Oomph. The middle-aged man snorted coldly and turned his cold gaze towards Yun Luofeng. "I don't know who you are, nor do I know why you've come to see me, but this isn't a place where you can come. Leave immediately." Yun Luofeng crossed his arms in front of his chest and lazily leaned on the doorsill. He smiled evilly at the middle-aged man with an ashen face. "I naturally have my reasons for coming here." She paused for a moment before continuing. "I heard that only the top 10 forces in Yellow Spring City have the right to enter the Other Shore Mountain. Because this city was named Yellow Spring, the mountain within Yellow Spring City was called Permitha Mountain. Because the amount of medicinal materials produced on the mountain was limited, Nether Spring City had an unspoken rule. Only those that were ranked in the top 10 had the qualifications to step foot into Permitha Mountain. Being able to enter the Other Shore Mountain became a symbol of Yellow Spring City's strength. This was why Yun Luofeng had sought out the Big Dipper gang." "What do you mean?" The middle-aged man's eyes darkened as he asked sternly. "My intention is very simple." Yun Luofeng narrowed his eyes slightly, the evil smile on his face becoming more pronounced. "That is, to replace your position." Suddenly, a powerful aura erupted from the middle-aged man's body. He rose from the ground and said angrily, "Little girl, do you know what you're saying? Replace me? I'd like to see if you have the ability to do so." After saying these words, he no longer hesitated. He quickly made his move. Like a sharp sword, he quickly arrived in front of Yun Luofeng. Chapter 552. The instant he appeared in front of Yun Luofeng, a heavy blow slammed into his soul, causing him to tremble. Immediately after, the young girl's figure appeared behind him without him noticing. She kicked his butt, sending him flying into the wall. The Pang brothers had been waiting to see Yun Luofeng make a fool of himself. In their opinion, their boss was already a celestial spirit practitioner. How could Yun Luofeng possibly contend against him? However, they never expected that the girl would use just one kick to force their boss into the wall like a gecko. He didn't even have a chance to resist. The two brothers were stunned. Their pale faces were filled with shock as they stared at Yun Luofeng. They were so shocked that they couldn't even speak. The girl raised her eyebrows and looked at the middle-aged man who was stuck to the wall. She smiled arrogantly. "Do you think I have the strength to replace you now?" The middle-aged man slowly slid down from the wall. He clutched his butt tightly and turned to glare at Yun Luofeng. "Since you want to go to the Other Shore Mountain, you should find a faction in the top 10. My Big Dipper gang is ranked 11th. I'm afraid it won't do as you wish." Yun Luofeng's lips curled up slightly. "I'm naturally lazy and don't want to find other factions. However, your Big Dipper gang just happened to come knocking on my door, so I can only look for you. As for the top 10, Yun Luofeng paused for a moment, then smiled confidently. "That's not a difficult task. In other words, as long as she took over the Big Dipper gang, it wouldn't be a problem for her to rank in the top 10. The middle-aged man laughed coldly. "Even if you defeat me, it won't be easy for you to lead the Big Dipper gang into the top 10. Young man, don't be too confident. Otherwise, you'll suffer sooner or later." Yun Luofeng turned to the middle-aged man with an evil smile. "Whether or not I can lead the Big Dipper gang into the top 10 is not something you should be concerned about. I'll give you two choices now. Let me destroy the Big Dipper gang or submit to me. Die or submit." The middle-aged man's expression suddenly changed. He clenched his fists tightly. The Pang brothers didn't expect Yin Luofeng's ambition to be so great. Their expressions became extremely ugly, and they regretted bringing him to see their boss. Little girl, don't you think you're going too far? The middle-aged man suppressed his anger and said sternly, the moment you open your mouth, you want the Big Dipper gang to submit to you? How are such actions any different from bandits? In Yellow Spring City, strength is everything. Here, the fist is the law. The destruction of a faction is a common occurrence. The smile in Yun Luofeng's eyes deepened. So, there's nothing wrong with me destroying your Big Dipper gang. The middle-aged man was so angry that his whole body was trembling. He took a deep breath and chose to remain silent, not saying a word. 1. Yin Luofeng saw that the middle-aged man didn't answer her, so she casually began to count. 2, 3. Her voice was demonic and moving, but it brought an extremely powerful pressure to the middle-aged man. That pressure was like a huge mountain, and it broke the last string in his mind. I agree. As soon as he finished speaking, he seemed to have lost all his strength, and his entire body collapsed. Since he'd come to Nether Spring City, he wasn't afraid of death, but he couldn't bear to see the foundation he'd built be destroyed. All right, Yin Luofeng finally smiled. Her smile was as beautiful as ever, so beautiful that one could not open their eyes. Since you've agreed, then from now on, your position belongs to me. Chapter 553. The middle-aged man's body slumped to the ground. He did not know if his decision was good or bad. He only hoped that this young lady would not destroy the entire Big Dipper gang. Many years later, when the middle-aged man recalled this scene, he realized how lucky he was. If it was not for this young lady's domineering behavior, the Big Dipper gang would still be in Netherworld City. It would not have become a powerful force that would unify Netherworld in the future. In Yellow Spring City, there would basically be a topic of conversation every single day. For example, it was the destruction of a force or the rise of a new force. Everyone was already used to it. However, today the entire Netherworld City was shaken by a piece of news. It was said that the Big Dipper gang had a change of ownership, and the person who took over was a young lady. Many people were guessing the relationship between this young lady and the leader of the Big Dipper gang, Morong Bay. Why did Morong Bay hand the Big Dipper gang to her? Could she be Morong Bay's illegitimate daughter or his lover? Otherwise, Morong Bay would not hand over the gang to a stranger so easily. Of course, everyone believed that it was a lover. According to the people who saw the young lady, she was a beauty that could topple a nation. Even the most beautiful woman in Netherworld City could not compare to her. No, the difference between the two was like heaven and earth. Morong Bay could not give birth to such a beautiful daughter. Therefore, this young lady must have bewitched Morong Bay with her beauty, causing him to hand over the gang in a daze at that moment. In the Sky Marshal Pavilion's main hall, Tang Ran listened to his subordinate's report. He fell into deep thought. The Big Dipper gang has been handed over to a young lady? Do you know where she came from? Pavilion Master, I've already sent people to find out more about that young lady. We haven't gotten any accurate information yet. Tang Ran thought for a while and said, let's not care about the Big Dipper gang for now. No matter what, the Big Dipper gang can't do anything anymore. Let's prepare for the upcoming auction. No matter what, I must get my hands on one of the auction items. Let Tianyu bring some people there. I want to see what he's capable of. Yes, Pavilion Master. The guard cupped his fists and left quietly. He stared at the direction where the guard disappeared with a solemn look. The Big Dipper gang? A teenage girl? It seems like the Big Dipper gang is getting weaker and weaker. Perhaps it won't be long before it disappears in the long river of history. As Tang Ran sent people to investigate Yun Luofeng's whereabouts, all the factions in Yellow Spring City were secretly observing the Big Dipper gang. After all, the Big Dipper gang had once been the limelight a few years ago. However, after the death of the previous gang leader, it had fallen into decline. Now, his position in Yellow Spring City had plummeted to the 11th position. In a picturesque mansion, a man was sitting under a peach blossom tree, playing the zither with his bare hands. His snow-white hair fluttered in the wind, setting off his snow-white skin, making him look incomparably handsome. Her sleeves fluttered in the wind, and the beautiful sound of the zither flowed like a clear spring, causing one's mood to become extremely tranquil. Patriarch, a beautiful woman in red, walked in front of the white-haired man, hugged her sword, and said, "I've already heard that the new girl from the Big Dipper gang is called Yun Luophone." Dang! The man's fingertips brushed past Qin Xian, producing a crisp sound. Then his movement stopped,